Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix?
Well, it is something that shouldn't be said. It is not right. A woman is an adult female, and the court has made that absolutely clear. I actually welcome the judgment because I think it gives real clarity. It allows those that have got to draw up guidance to be really clear about what that guidance should say. If you want to fight for Remain, vote Labour. Now, there are some who say we don't need Brexit to work. We need to reverse it. I couldn't disagree more. Day after day, there are new allegations of sleaze, of favours, of privileged access. And it's all very well the Prime Minister saying, well, say now, well, I'm paying for it.
You've decided to repay £6,000 worth of gifts.
Lord Ali is facing an investigation. I wonder how concerned you are that your biggest donor was not fully transparent.
Are you saying you made a mistake?
It was right for me to make those repayments. Thank you. Of course, I wouldn't want Donald Trump round for dinner, but don't underestimate the danger to the world if Trump is re-elected this time around. I'm anti-Trump. I would like to send my warmest congratulations to President Trump on his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Glory. It's coming up to very nearly 3 minutes past 6, and it is, of course, Tuesday. We are here for your delectation. It's the 9th of September. It's a little bit chilly this morning. For the first time I came out of the house and thought, there's a bit of a nip in the air. It's possibly autumn. Is it really? But apparently there's a big storm coming towards the end of the week, and I know you don't like me to talk about weather, but I will keep talking about it because it's the thing we love here in the British Isles. We like to talk about the weather. Peter Plexy's here. Peter, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Gary.
Very good to see you. Loads and loads of stories to talk about this morning. Front page of The Sun have got Plane of Thrones, which I rather like. Great headline. The King jets home, sparking Harry meet-up rumours, because, of course, the King has been in Scotland, hanging around with various dignitaries. Harry flew in yesterday, decided to go unofficially to lay some flowers to commemorate the death of his grandmother. But Prince William, on the other hand, was actually doing it officially. So they've got the Warring Princes on page 1 of the Daily Mail as well. Yep. Meanwhile, the cop who was involved in the Madeleine McCann prime suspect case has said that basically he secured the release of Christian Bruckner because he felt sorry for him. This guy Christian Bruckner may or may not be the chief suspect. You can talk to us about that because that's your area of expertise. Front page of the Times says a visa threat to states who don't take back migrants. This is the first week in office. Shabana Mahmood didn't kick off terribly well because on Saturday, on her first day at work, 1,097 people came across the channel, and it looks as though she doesn't have a clue about what to do about it. But basically they're saying the new Home Secretary signalled her willingness to risk diplomatic spats with big nations, announcing plans to suspend visas for countries that do not play ball with her efforts to implement a surge in migrant deportations. I'm not buying it. I don't think she knows what she's doing any more than anybody else does. 4 in 5 NHS hospitals are failing, according to the front page of the Daily Telegraph. We talked about this yesterday. There are 2 GP surgeries every single week closing down because the health service is completely broken. Now it turns out The best and worst performing trust in England have been named and shamed for the first time as part of Labour's promise to reform the broken health service. Well, if you want to reform something, first of all, fine, tell us what the problem is, but don't just highlight the fact that it's completely and utterly rubbish, because we all know that. But I want to hear from you today, because I want your help on the NHS. Once again, we haven't really done enough on the NHS in the last few weeks. There's been so much going on, because Labour are literally at civil war with themselves, because Keir Starmer tried to hold it all together, needs a new deputy leader, doesn't have any control over who it's going to be. You've got Emily Thornberry, the ghost of Christmas past, who wants to come and absolutely scare him. Well, she would scare me, to be honest, if she came up behind me. And also, you've got Lucy Powell, the woman he also sacked from the government, who's also trying to scare him into submission. And also, you've got all manner of other lefties. Louise Haigh, convicted fraudster, she's apparently in the frame for it as well. So it's all going terribly badly wrong. Over in France, meanwhile, the government has collapsed, it would appear. There's no Prime Minister there, and he's warned that basically don't become like Britain, don't become a high-tax nation where nobody wants to live. That's the way they view us from the other side of the channel. 0344 499 1000 is the number. This is Morning Glory. Let us get it on, shall we? Peter, very good morning to you, sir.
Very good morning to you. I missed you last week.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't here. I was in America. Had a great time. I must admit, I had a very good time in America. No matter what they tell you, it's still the land of the free and the home of the brave. And you can still go to a diner any time you like and have steak and eggs for breakfast, which is one of the greatest things to ever do. And unlimited cups of coffee, which you can't do here. You just can't get it right here, but never mind. What can I say? Where should we kick off? Should we start with the old migrant scenario once again? Shabana Mahmood, we've got a new Home Secretary who appears to be just as useless as the last Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper.
17 boats on Saturday.
Yeah.
And only one on Sunday.
Right.
So 18 boats with a total of 1,162 illegals.
Right.
Let me just emphasise that word, illegals, because foolishly I tuned into a different radio station, not so long ago. And there was some leftist commentator and presenter having an absolute...
Well, tell us how great it is.
Having a socialist love-in about how wonderful the UK was with our open borders and all that kind of tripe.
Somebody pointed out to me yesterday that the amount of people that came over at the weekend will cost us 40 million quid this year just to look after.
There you go.
40 million quid.
Yeah, it's astonishing, isn't it? Yeah. And, of course, they refer to them as irregular.
Irregular, yes.
Irregular.
Yes.
OK, so there I was, shouting at the radio just before I turned it off, of course. Right? OK, and what I wanted to do, if I'd have been of a mind to, I would have rung up and rinsed both of them.
Yes.
Mainly by highlighting Section 3 of the Immigration Act 1971.
OK.
Which is still in power.
Yes.
OK, it's still a law.
Well, even though nobody uses it.
It's still a thing.
Right.
And it is a crime to enter the UK without leave to remain.
Yes.
None of those people on those boats have leave to remain. They are therefore committing a crime.
Yes.
And should I ever rule the world, the minute they land at Dover, they would be incarcerated, which would be a very good thing for razor wire manufacturers and the handlers of snarling Alsatians.
Yeah.
OK, because they would be required to keep them detained because they've broken the law.
Yes.
OK?
But hang on, you say detained, right? Isn't this exactly the same policy that Keir Starmer tells us he is carrying out? Because he says if you come here illegally, you will be detained.
Yes, prior to being one in, one out.
Right.
How much more nonsense shall we discuss that emanates from the man of the, quite simply, worst Prime Minister in my living history?
Yeah.
So once they were incarcerated... Oh, and what we need to do, by the way, when Starmer starts talking about using former military buildings and such like to keep these people in and all of that, what the lefties really don't want you to use is the word camps.
No, they don't like that word.
They're very, very delicate about that word. So they'll call them asylum centres or something. They'll give it some...
Yeah, they don't like the word. What's wrong with them? Why? I mean, as we were saying yesterday, funnily enough, so they can't refer to Butlins holiday camp or Pontins holiday camp because it's a horrible word, right?
Yeah.
So,
we are therefore duty-bound to call whatever kind of building these people are detained in, we must call them a camp.
OK.
Repeatedly.
Definitely.
Just to trigger
I'm up for that.
the lefties.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Yeah.
So it's incredible, isn't it, that you've got also these people who will occasionally, notwithstanding your ruling on what the Immigration Act actually says, who will always say, but they're allowed to come here and claim asylum because that's within the bounds of international law. Well, actually it isn't, because they are illegal, they are worthy of being detained, they are actually destined to be detained, but what won't happen to them is that they will be sent back. You might remember, talking about irregular travel, Yvette Cooper, up until recently, until Friday actually, was the Home Secretary. She issued a statement on the 4th of August in which she said that they had detained the first people who had come here under the new rules, and that she would give us regular updates as to what they were doing. She gave us no updates for a month, and then the only update she gave us was that she wasn't doing the job anymore, and now she's off to be Foreign Secretary.
Yes, imagine the links she's going to forge with nations around the world. Imagine when she bowls into some grand kind of building in a far-flung land to sit down and negotiate on behalf of the United Kingdom what people might think as she comes through the door and then opens her mouth.
It's so depressing, isn't it? I mean, the story on the front page of the Times today says that Shabana Mahmood is going to warn these various countries around the world that they will have their visa programme suspended with us if they don't do the right thing. I think we've got a clip of her saying how this is going to work. Shall we check it out?
I have one top priority in my job as Home Secretary, and that is to secure our borders. And so today I've been talking to our Five Eyes partners about what more we can do to work together to make sure that our borders are secure and that our citizens feel safe. We think that there is interesting space for collaboration, particularly on how we deal with countries who do not take their citizens back. So making sure that we are able to return out of our countries people who have no right to be in our countries and send them back to their home country. So for the countries that do not play ball, we've been talking about how we can take much more coordinated action between the Five Eyes countries, and for us that means including possibly the cutting of visas in the future, just to say, you know, we do expect countries to play ball, play by the rules, and if one of your citizens has no right to be in our country, you do need to take them back.
So let's just examine what she actually said, that including the possibility of cutting the visas. Including the possibility of cutting the visas, i.e. we're not going to do that. We're just going to say we might do it with the hope that you will go, oh, OK, then, well, in that case, we'll take all these scumbags back. They're not going to do it, are they?
When she stands there spouting...
Why is she looking to the side as well? Does she not know where the camera is? See, the camera's there. It's like me going like this. I'll just talk to you over here, Peter. How do you think that's going to go? I may come up with an idea at some point or other which will never be actually in any way actually actioned. But here I am. I'm the new Home Secretary, and I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, well, perhaps, can I look at you now, please?
Yes.
Can I? Thank you. Right. I don't think she believes herself.
No.
Because she's certainly not convincing anyone else, is she?
Absolute BS, don't they?
They really do. But another
I'd like to swear, but I was told off for swearing before I went away, so I'm trying to try not to do it.
Quite right.
Yeah.
Well, another thing that has triggered the lefties since Friday, which is, quite frankly, hysterical, they're talking about this move to the right by Starmer, right? OK? It's utterly laughable. Open up the homepage of the Labour Party website.
Yes.
All right, don't. I've done it so you don't have to, listeners and viewers, right?
I'm not sure I'd like to.
No, you really... I do these things for you.
Thank you.
In the name of research.
Yeah.
And it opens up saying Labour Party is a socialist party.
Yes.
There is no move to the right.
No.
It's just the lefties getting their knickers in a twist once again because, of course, Ange has had to walk because she got the tin tack.
I was thinking, I have to say this to you, I was imagining over the course of the weekend Ange standing on the pavement outside Admiralty Arch, watching as they removed all of her furniture out of the Grace and Favour apartment and moved David Lammy's stuff in. Yeah. Can you imagine how annoying that would be?
Well, can you imagine how terrifying it would be that David Lammy is only a heart attack away from being the Prime Minister of this country? I'm not going to wish ill upon Mr Starmer, of course. Right. I just wish he'd have an alternative
The only
job.
move to the right that Starmer's had is dressing to the right, I suspect.
Yes,
with,
quite possibly.
With reference to Lord Ali. We've got another Shabana Mahmood clip. Here she is. Now, here's another thing, right, that's really annoyed me since Friday, is we keep hearing this narrative that, oh, she's very tough, you know, very hard, this woman, she's brilliant. You know, she actually, that idiot, what's his name, Darren Jones, put out a tweet yesterday saying well, she sorted out the prisons crisis. Sorry, I must have missed that. They released 26,000 people onto the streets of Britain who shouldn't have been on the streets because they're criminals, right? And then some of them had to be taken back in. Meanwhile, the prisons are still full. How has she solved the prisons crisis?
And why did they have to be taken back in? Because, drum roll, they committed more crimes. Well, there's a surprise. Who'd have thought that? You let out thousands and thousands of criminals onto the streets, and a sizable percentage of them go and commit more crime.
Well, I mean, what do criminals do? I mean, you're a veteran of policing. They tend to commit crime. That's why they're called criminals.
Yes,
they don't do nice things.
Yes,
they commit crime. Let's have a look. This is Shabana Mahmood's latest. After that last one, where let's see if she's looking to camera this time. This is going further and
3
faster.
days into the job, I have a very strong foundation to build on. Yvette Cooper, my predecessor, had real success in getting returns to 35,000. I think that was a real step change from the terrible inheritance we had from the previous Conservative government. And of course, she was able to strike that landmark deal with the French. That's an international binding treaty between us and the French government. And of course, it's not for us to comment on the domestic political affairs in France, but we will be looking to, of course, continue with the treaty that we have agreed. But that is a strong foundation for me to build on as the new Home Secretary. I will be looking to go further and faster because I am very clear I have one top priority in this job, and that is to secure the borders. I will do whatever it takes. And for those who've worked with me already in government and in my previous brief, I think people can tell I'm not the sort of person that hangs around.
I don't know what she's talking about.
No, it's just waffle.
They've been talking about this 35,000 figure since last November. They sent 35,000 people back home. All but 2,000 of them actually wanted to go home, right? And they were not returned to their home countries. They were returned to other places. Most of them are Albanians. Only 2,000. I'm just going to turn back round. Only 2,000 of them actually were returns who had come here illegally from other countries who we were deporting. Because and they've been clinging on to this number since November. It's now nearly a year later.
It's the inherent dishonesty. It's the inherent dishonesty about it all that sticks in the back of my throat.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, I have to give her credit there. She only said, twice in that clip,
There's a chance of her looking at the camera, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, people say that, she uses, a bit too frequently. And maybe, that's an indicator of, well, maybe, she hasn't got the most glittering vocabulary to have.
She hasn't, clearly. But where does this idea come from that she's brilliant somehow? Because that's what we keep being told. Yeah. She's not brilliant, is she?
Well, none of us are going to fall for that, are we?
I really don't think we are. Meanwhile, in the Daily Mail today, pages 10 and 11, it says Labour's on the brink of civil war because basically poor old Keir Starmer has got a whole load of women lining up around him because he's got a problem with women, as has been explained by Rosie Duffield. And I think he does have a problem with women. But basically, the people who are all lining up to become deputy leader of the Labour Party are amongst some of the most hateful women that have ever lived and walked the earth, and they hate him more than anything. Emily Thornberry, you might remember her.
Yes.
She's the woman who, Lady Newgie, as she's otherwise known, likes to think of white working class men as scumbags, hates white van man, hates people who fly the flag. There's also Lucy Powell. Let's not forget who Lucy Powell is. Let's play the clip that she made back in the early part of this year.
Rape gangs over this.
We want to blow that little trumpet now, do we? Yeah.
There was a real issue.
Let's get that dog whistle out, shall we?
She didn't want to talk about rape gangs because apparently that's a racist dog whistle.
Within about a millisecond of hearing that, I was so enraged that I went onto social media and I wrote, Lucy Powell is a bleep.
Yeah.
Right? Very, very fruity, potty language.
Yes.
I understand people might criticise me for using that particular word, but it perfectly summed her up, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that stems from the fact that Maggie Oliver is a mate of mine.
Yeah.
I think that child rape is a very, very serious matter.
Yes.
And do you know what? When politicians and police officers, sorry just to go on to that,
but
these child rape gangs, is very apposite to what Lucy Powell said.
Yeah.
If politicians, councillors or social workers or police officers allow people to rape children and do nothing about it because of community cohesion and community tensions, then you know what? A nation has lost its soul, its moral fibre, its moral compass. And then, now going on to Mahmood, if a nation fails to control its borders, then a nation has lost its moral fibre and its courage.
And let me put two things together there, because not only have we lost control of our borders, not only do people not regard child rape gangs as a problem, but put those two things together and guess what you have? You have people coming in from countries around the world who don't think it's a problem to rape children, because that's what they do when they're at home.
Can you imagine if we were to rewind maybe 50 or 60 years and our parents, for example, were listening to this broadcast?
My father would not put up with any of it. I'll tell you what. He'd literally be going around somebody's house. I don't know what he'd be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and I think there would be such widespread outrage,
revulsion
among the nation. That a government would topple within hours. Let alone clinging on and inquiries, or no, we won't have an inquiry, and then getting boxed into a corner and then announcing an inquiry. This nation will not purge itself of the dreadful, dreadful ills of the past in regards to these child rape gangs until every single person, no matter what position they held, no matter where they are now, if they turned a blind eye, if they did nothing, if they obstructed or in any other way prevented justice being delivered to those victims, this nation will not repair until they are in jail.
Yeah. Absolutely right. I couldn't agree with you more. Meanwhile, let me give you some numbers. The Migrant Tracker today says that since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister, 53,407 of these scumbags have come into the country illegally, and the migrant numbers for 2025 alone have now reached 30,165. That's quite a large number of people, and most of them, by the way, are not actually living in migrant hotels. They're now living amongst us in various, houses of multiple occupancy.
And our pathetic Prime Minister will not regard this as a state of emergency.
No, he keeps telling us how he's securing our borders and sending people home and detaining them. That's why I said it to you earlier. But he's not doing any of that. Let's have a look at Emily Thornberry, perhaps one of the most hateful women that's ever walked the earth as a member of the Labour government. She was on Laura Kuenssberg on Sunday trying to make out that she's changed and she's nicey now. Have a look.
It's such a mixed picture, isn't it? I mean, we're doing so well internationally, and our standing is so much higher. We're back on the international scene. But domestically, things just don't seem to be working. I mean, there are things that we're doing which are fantastic, but nobody seems to know about it. The highest wage growth, building some homes, having actually investing in green energy. All of these sorts of things are brilliant achievements, but nobody seems to be hearing about that. They hear about the mistakes. And the question is, why are we making these mistakes? We can't afford to keep doing this.
Do you think they live in a parallel universe? She said building some homes, and then she ran out of what was good that was happening, and then she kind of settled on investing in green energy. That's it. There's nothing going on there, right? There's literally nothing between her ears.
Here are the latest grammar results. Mahmood 2, Thornberry 2. 2 you-knows each, right? In those very, very short clips,
Yeah.
And when people say maybe it's a footballer who might not have the widest vocabulary,
Maybe not.
And he's interviewed after a game,
Yes.
Well, OK, I'm going to cut him some slack because kicking a ball, is his game, and, he's not really there to be a professional
he's not
talker,
selling the government's, deal, is he?
No, he's not really, honestly, he isn't. But, Thornberry... she's a politician, and as we've seen now with her and Mahmood, they use that as a default when they're not actually convincing themselves, let alone us.
Because they've got nothing to tell us about how well things are going. And also, we're back on the international stage doing great things. Doing what exactly?
Yeah.
What are we doing on the international stage? This bloke Starmer has done a big deal with the French, Macron, whose country is literally falling down around his ears. Front page of the Times today, Macron loses yet another Prime Minister days before protest and a strike. There's going to be a great big national strike taking place tomorrow. The same day that unions are actually going to be telling investors to get out of the economy. France is a basket case, and these are the people that we've done business with, right? And they're going to take people back from this country, supposedly, even though actually they haven't got the wherewithal to do it. Absolutely hopeless.
One in, one out, boat them all about. Now, if we talk about the Prime Minister of France, who's just lost his job.
The ex-Prime Minister of France.
Yes, because he got voted out.
Yes.
Before he did, and his name was Francis Bayrou, apparently, forgive my mispronunciation if I've got that wrong. He made a statement to the French Parliament in a last gasp effort to save his skin. And of course, during that, he said, don't be like Britain.
Yes.
Don't raise taxes because people will flee. And guess what? In The Sun today, it is announced, guess who's leaving the UK to go and live in America?
Oh, yes.
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran's going.
Wife.
And also Jim Ratcliffe, I think, the guy who now owns Manchester United. I think he's leaving.
The Ineos fella.
Yeah, the Ineos guy. He's off as well.
Yeah. So Ed Sheeran. Imagine how much money he's contributed to this nation through taxes, his sponsorship of his beloved Ipswich Town, for example, and all that. This money goes into the economy. It's part of
and he
fueling.
employs people. He pays out money for hospitality deals that he does. I mean, this is a guy who has an awful lot of personal cash at his disposal, which he spends very, very well and very willy-nilly whenever he wants to.
A homegrown success story.
Yes.
A hugely popular musician.
Yeah.
Massively popular among young people who may have disposable cash to spend on downloading his songs, buying his albums, going to his concerts, all that kind of thing. And then when they're at the concert, what do? They have something to eat, they buy something to drink, and so on. These are the wheels that turn, that move the economy. And he is going to America.
Socialists don't get that. Socialists only understand one thing, right? They call it investment in public sector jobs, right? What they actually mean is public money, i.e. taxpayers' money, being put into private companies so that they can all profit to a huge extent off the back of the hard-working people of this country. We see no benefit from it at all, right? Not one piece of benefit at all do we see.
And, of course, they're rather keen on the expression social mobility.
Yes.
Now, whenever you hear a Labour politician mention social mobility, ring the alarm bell as loudly as you can. Because what that actually means to these lunatic lefties is making us all as skint as one another.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually mean anything about mobility. And let me give you a great example of that, if I may.
Yes.
Last week, I was sent an email thread by a listener, who was very keen to speak to me because he'd been in conversation with his MP from somewhere in Nottinghamshire, a recently sort of elected lunatic lefty called James Naish, or Nash, N-A-I-S-H, MP.
Right.
And this man who had worked for 32 years in the police, on the front line, rolling around on pavements with burglars, robbers, drunks, shoplifters and the such like, had, together with his wife, worked hard, and they owned their own home. They'd paid the mortgage off, and they were proud of that, and rightfully so, and well done them.
Yes.
He's in this email exchange with this Labour MP. The Labour MP accused him of being privileged because he owned his own home.
Privileged
to have had 32 years of rolling around on pavements. Privileged to have worked very hard, saved hard, paid his mortgage and the such like.
Yes.
He called him privileged. And that is the inside workings of the lunatic mind of a lefty MP.
Let me give you the word privileged as a proper definition, right? You may have heard this man's name before, a certain Ed Miliband.
Oh, yes.
Ed Miliband has been branded an eco-hypocrite in The Sun today, page 9. Do you know why? Because you know how he's telling us that, one, we're always going to be saving money on our bills, which we'll play you a clip from in a minute. It turns out that he boasted in February that he'd installed a heat pump at his house, right? Which he has done in his London home, but of course he's got another home, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Because he's privileged. He's got a home in Doncaster, South Yorkshire, where his constituency is. In that house, he's got a gas boiler. Now, I don't mind if he's got a gas boiler, because in my view, you should have a gas boiler. It's the most efficient way to heat your home. However, he doesn't want you to have one, doesn't want me to have one, and not only does he have a gas boiler, but he charges us for the use of it. So he's actually claimed £121.18 for gas, £47.73 for electricity from the taxpayer, right? And that is just for 1 month, and that's in February of this year. This is a bloke who plans to ban gas boilers from new homes this year, and he wants all of homes, 600,000 homes, to have heat pumps fitted by 2028.
Yeah.
And this is a bloke who tells us that you must be green. Not only is he not green, he's making us pay for his own energy. What an absolute disgrace.
As he drives the nation ever closer towards the 2030 net zero
yes.
target.
And do you know that Keir Starmer tried to reshuffle him in his ridiculous reshuffling of the Titanic chairs on Friday, right? And Miliband refused to go.
Yeah.
He refused to move.
Yeah.
So Starmer is so weak that he can't even move Ed Miliband.
So please remind me, who's supposed to be in charge of this country? Who's
meant to be Keir Starmer.
Oh, so he should be in charge of saying who does what job, right? Is that how it works?
Supposedly.
Unless he comes up against moribund Miliband.
Yeah, very good.
Who digs his heels in.
I like that. Let's have a look at... All right, got 2 clips for you here. Miliband's appearance on Good Morning Britain months ago on how we're going to save money on energy bills. Check this out.
So we set that out for 2030. It was an independent set of modelling that said that bills could go down by up to £300. And what's important, Susanna, is that the report I referred to last week from the energy system operator confirms that not only is our target achievable, but it will lead to lower costs of electricity.
So in 6 years' time, our bills will go down by £300. How much are they going to have gone up by that point?
He can't answer it. So he's hoping to save us 300 quid by 2030. I mean, I don't know if you and I are going to be alive in 2030. I'm not sure I'm going to wait around for the 300 quid I'm going to get for old Millipede, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'll have paid 300 quid towards his heating allowance for his own second home.
And as we know, the energy cap
What are we,
goes
stupid? Are we mugs? Never mind. Keir Starmer's in charge of the country, right? You asked me who's in charge. He put this out yesterday. I think that's quite a good video. I don't know about you, Peter. What do you think?
I thought we were in Ibiza for a minute.
Yeah, it's not so much Kraftwerk, it's more Tangerine Dream now, isn't it?
Really?
Anyway, back to the matter at hand. It's 6:31. We better take a little break. Peter Blexley's here. I'm here. We've got some more bad news for you coming next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is...
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:35. I'm Mike Graham. This from Mark, who says, James rather, sorry, says, Mike, I just got an email from my energy provider saying my bills are going up 4% this year. So much for Ed Millipede's forecast. Well, exactly right. Good morning, Mike and Peter. The UK is going in the same direction as France, and that is a disaster, says Sharon from Staffordshire. And here's one from Peter Ray, the NHS. He says, my daughter-in-law was due to have a CT scan yesterday afternoon for an ongoing problem that no doctor has yet been able to give a definitive name to. She received a phone call yesterday morning from the hospital to tell her that her appointment has been cancelled, as it was now deemed unnecessary. Even her own doctor was shocked at this and is now trying to rebook the very necessary appointment. Just another example of NHS chaos. And with regard to that, Peter, the Telegraph this morning has got 4 in 5 NHS hospitals are failing. You know, what on earth is this government doing? Why can they not fix anything? And why is everything getting worse?
I can't let that contributor's very, very powerful message about that CT scan being... I can't let it go for the moment, because imagine the blight on your life that every day you wake up, you know something is not quite right. The GP has confirmed that. He can't identify what it is, and the one thing that is probably going to nail it, and thereafter you can get some treatment for it, is cancelled and you're not having it. That is a stain upon our nation. The NHS should exist to be able to do exactly that. Its job is to look after the health of the nation. And maybe, I don't know, and we don't need an answer, but maybe this person cannot work because of the condition that they're suffering from. So maybe they're not contributing to the economy where they otherwise could do. Regardless, no matter what their age or whether they work or not, or school child or retired or whosoever it may be, that is an absolute shame and scandal.
It's a stain on our society, isn't it?
And how many more scans got cancelled yesterday? How many operations?
Every time we talk about the NHS, I get an absolute flurry of information from the ordinary, decent, hard-working people of this country who listen to this show and talk to me on a daily basis, and the scale of it is unbelievable. You know, there is, you know, we keep hearing, I mean, John Healey said it on Sunday, the Defence Secretary, being interviewed on Laura Kunsberg. He started banging on about, you know, one of the great achievements of this Labour government is we've made 4 million new appointments on the NHS. No, they haven't, right? Because everyone that I talk to has had at least 4 appointments made and all cancelled, which means that they've made appointments but nobody's being seen. And it's an absolute scandal. It really is. I'm sick to death of it.
And when politicians are reduced to playing games with figures, but what we're actually talking about is people's lives. That is a deeply, deeply offensive, diabolical thing for them to do. Tell the truth. It's not such a hard thing to do, you know, politicians. Tell the
Let me put it another way. Stop lying. How about that? In the Daily Mail today, they've got the top 5 and the bottom 5 trusts in this country, right? The worst hospital in Britain is the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in King's Lynn NHS Foundation Trust, followed by the Countess of Chester Hospital, followed by University Hospitals in Coventry and Warwickshire, North Cumbria Integrated Care, and the Medway NHS Foundation Trust. Apparently what we're going to do is we're going to offer NHS leaders extra pay to go into challenge trusts and turn them around. Well, my question is this. Why can't they do what they say on the tin? If you're running a hospital and you're not treating people and you're not making them better, you might as well shut it down, mightn't you?
Just sack them. Get someone in who can do it. I'm all for people going in and troubleshooting. It happens a lot in schools, doesn't it? Where a successful headmaster or headmistress will be offered a new job at an underperforming school and they go in and they turn it around. I'm all for getting the right person, the best person for that job. So why, if one hospital can be an absolute beacon, is run very, very well and delivers for people, then why not another? Look at that one that's underperforming, get rid of the people that are not delivering and get people in there who can do the job.
Well, here's the problem with the NHS, right? There's a bloke called Matthew Taylor, Chief Executive of the NHS Confederation. And do you know what the NHS Confederation is all about? It's an organisation within the NHS which seeks to get funding for the NHS. And I'm going, well, hang on, You already got funding for the NHS. Why do you need a special organisation to do that? He says it's all very well saying that you've got league tables. He goes, league tables, when thoughtfully designed and effectively implemented, can be a valuable tool for fostering healthy competition and enhancing local accountability. And here's the rub. He says, however, they must not become instruments of blame.
Right.
Do you know what Matthew Taylor used to do?
No.
He used to be a chief advisor to the Tony Blair government.
Ah, jobs for the boys.
I'm afraid
well,
so.
There's a strange thing.
He knows nothing about. He knows no more about NHS hospitals than you do.
Yeah.
Right. And yet he runs a company which is a private sort of, publicly held company where everybody who's in it is paid a six-figure salary. And they don't do any clinical work. They're not anything to do with healthcare. They sit there trying to accrue money for NHS hospitals.
And none of them could sort out my verruca?
No, not one.
Right.
And they couldn't take out your ingrown toenail either.
Right.
And they couldn't even give you a prescription for some painkillers because they're not doctors.
And they're former advisors to former prime ministers.
I'm afraid so.
So that gives them a real in-depth knowledge, understanding of how a medical...
What I call them is obfuscation specialists.
Yeah.
That's what they're good at.
Yes.
Anyway,
is that a polite word for another word that begins with B?
Yeah, or W.
Yeah.
Listen, Peter Blackstone and I, we're going to have to stop again. I was going to be in trouble again for swearing. It's 6:41, and we'll be back with the War of the Princes after this. Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk. Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham, 6:44. Let's get a quick voice note from Boz on Shabana Mahmood.
Morning, Mike and the breakfast team. All this from Mahmood is just utter rubbish. All we keep hearing is, we're going to do this, we're going to do that if you don't. By the time they imply that, it's 6 months down the road and probably about 10,000 have come in. It makes no difference who's there. Just stop the boats coming in. That's all you need. Just stop the boats. That's all it needs to be done.
All right, Boz. I'm starting to get in a bit of a bad mood at the moment this morning. Sorry for that. Let's go quickly to Simon Calder, travel correspondent at The Independent. Apparently there was an incident yesterday, Peter Plexley's here with me, at Terminal 4 at Heathrow, a possible hazardous materials incident. I don't know what that's about. Simon can tell us. Simon, very good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Mike. Well, I'd say possibly a possible hysterical or mass hysteria event. This was a really, really odd one. Let me tell you what happened. Just before 5 o'clock, police and indeed the fire service and the ambulance service were called to Terminal 4 at Heathrow. That's the one which does airlines such as Air France and KLM, Qatar Airways, Etihad, and so on. There were 21 apparent casualties, of whom 20 were investigated and found to be in good shape, and then the other one apparently was taken to hospital for further investigation. But after a team with full hazmat kit went in, and of course the crowds were inside were evacuated, nothing was found at all, and then we had hours of absolute chaos as things gradually got back together. As you can imagine, if everyone's checking in for dozens of flights going across Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and then suddenly they're not checking in anymore, it takes a long time to get them on their way. We saw 3-4 hour delays on a number of flights, including Qatar Airways to Doha. So those people would have missed their connections, I'm sorry to say. And the last flight out finally took off around midnight, a couple of hours after planes normally stop taking off from Heathrow. That was China Southern to Guangzhou, at which point everybody is thinking, so, well, what was the problem? And nobody seems to be able to tell. As you will appreciate, Mike, airports, there have been over the years, very sadly, a number of terrorist incidents. And so as soon as hazardous materials are reported, then everything is treated, everything goes into lockdown. But this seems to be just one of those events we'll just have to put down to experience and just hope that not too many people are inconvenienced waking up this morning in Doha Airport to find that their plane to Sydney or wherever left 3 or 4 hours ago.
Yeah, I mean, so people weren't taken to hospital? Nobody was really ill at all?
Well, no, I mean, apparently one individual, and the thing is, we don't know anything more about it, and we're only working on one source which said from the Met, which I haven't personally been able to verify, that this was mass hysteria. But since you've got firefighters, police going in, investigating everything and finding not a sausage, then the presumption is that things were okay, and that some kind of event was triggered and everybody suddenly just thought, oh my goodness, we're being poisoned or whatever. Right. I don't know, but I do know it was a mighty kerfuffle just as people were getting ready for that last wave. Actually, some people who were airside past the security queue, they actually got away after this had happened, because if you're on a plane and everybody was there strapped in ready to go, then actually the best way to solve that problem is to fly them off somewhere. So they went. But a right old muddle just shows once again Heathrow, when it works, is really very impressive. When things start to go wrong, they can unravel very quickly. Of course, the rail station was closed. The tube station was already closed because of the tube strike. So that saved them one task, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, listen, Simon, thank you very much for the update. Appreciate it. Simon Calder, the travel correspondent for the Independent piece. I mean, I guess it's one of those difficult situations, isn't it? Because you don't want, if there is any risk of there being something terrible happening, you want to take precautions. But there does seem to be a kind of over-emphasis these days on, you know, safety, when maybe their common sense might be a better way forward.
Unfortunately, airports have been the subject of many a terrorist attack over the decades, and they remain a target. All the 999 services rehearse and practice their procedures time and time and time again, because of course there is an air of inevitability that at some stage, at some airport or other around the world, there will be an atrocity. So I'm going to side with the 999 services.
No, I don't disagree with that.
There were systems that they had to put in place. They had to do what they did. Of course, the question is, what started this? What was the actual cause of, as Simon kind of describes it, hysteria? You do need calm minds in an unusual or a challenging or a crisis situation. That's what our 999 services train for, to remain calm in the face often of panic by others, namely the public. It really is a strange one. And of course, as we all know, flying and the airline industry is brilliant when it works. but it doesn't take much.
And I must say, and I will take my chances here because I don't get a chance to say it very often, whenever there has been something terrible happening, and it's happened around here in London Bridge, you know, more than once, as you know, the police have always been brilliant, actually. And so I will give them, you know, due credit where credit is due, because one of the things they're really good at is making sure that people don't panic and making sure that people actually do remain calm, get away from the area, do whatever you have to do, and I'm not going to give them a hard time for that. But I do worry sometimes that places like Heathrow, their kind of default position is to kind of not really calm anything down, but actually make it worse sometimes.
We are a bit more risk averse, I think, as a nation than we ever were. We don't have that stiff upper lip kind of resolve that the post-war generation had and handed down to their children like me, for example. I think that's been diluted somewhat over the decades, and people are more likely to fly into a blind panic, which makes controlling a crowd even more challenging. Because a measured stroll away from somewhere is often better than legging it and causing a stampede. But as you say, and thank you very much for highlighting that, in moments of great need, in moments of terrorist atrocities, that is when our police and our other 999 services run towards danger and so many others would run away.
Yeah, and we should thank them for that. So there we are. Coming up, because we haven't got there yet, 7 miles apart, still a chasm between the warring princes, and that's, of course, Harry and William. Peter Blexley's here. We'll talk about that coming next.
It's interesting that immigration has fallen a lot in the past couple of years. We had the so-called Boris wave, and it's now dropped off quite a lot, but the kind of as a topic in the media.
Well, wasn't it about a year ago? Well, sorry, the last calendar year, wasn't it still in the sort of ballpark of 800,000?
I think my understanding is it's about halved from the levels that it previously was. And I think it's certainly fair to say that, you know, depending on, you know, people will have different views on what the right level is.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, coming up to 5 minutes to 7. Peter Blexley's here. Do you know it's the first meeting of the Cabinet today since the reshuffle on Friday? It'll be exciting, won't it?
Will everybody know where to sit?
Well, probably not, no. They'll have to pull all the knives out of Keir Starmer's back as well before he sits down.
Musical chairs.
Yeah, absolutely right. Also, apparently, BBC Director General Tim Davie and Chair Samir Shah will face questions from MPs on the Gaza documentary, the Glastonbury debacle, and Greg Wallace.
No doubt Tim Davie will wear a suit. No tie, of course. No tie.
And
no
some
tie.
trainers.
Yeah, and trainers. White trainers. And
Absolutely
look utterly ridiculous.
He will. Let's talk about the two princes. Front page of the Daily Mail today. They both grieve for a beloved grandmother. We found the news, I think, yesterday that Prince Harry had flown in overnight, despite the fact that he hasn't been invited, as far as we know, to see his family. He certainly won't be seeing his brother William. But it was the 3rd anniversary of Queen Elizabeth's death, right?
Yep.
And he turns up on his own without really kind of giving a heads up to his brother to lay some flowers. And it's how embarrassing is that? He sort of has to go there on his own, unaccompanied, unwilling to be, I mean, just a sort of a pariah of the family.
Mike, you and I might be at odds over this story, and I'm sure there's a number of your audience are going to think that I'm a sentimental, slack-brained half-wit here. But I'm a dad, and I'm a father of 3 adult sons.
Yeah.
37, 24 and 22.
Yeah.
And the very thought of me having a monumental fallout with one or any of them,
yeah,
and the thought, just the prospect of 2 of those boys never enjoying the loving, close relationship that they've currently all got,
yeah,
would break my heart.
Imagine then if one of them had done what Harry had done.
I get it, and of course William and Harry have had a very different upbringing to my boys, and they tragically lost their mum, and they've been in the public eye, and so I'm not looking to draw comparisons in that regard. And I think Harry has made some very, very foolish decisions. But we are only on this planet for the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Their dad is having cancer treatment. Who knows what's round the corner? Please, fellas, all 3 of you. And I'm not being flippant, and I'm most definitely not being disrespectful. If I knew these guys, I'd say, do you know what? Here's the keys to mine. The fridge is full. The beer fridge is full. Get your heads together and sort it out. It's yours for the weekend, and I hope when I come back you've reconciled your differences.
I take that point, and a lot of people will agree with you, but sometimes people do things which you can't forgive them for.
I get that too.
Know?
Yeah, I do get that.
And there are many families up and down the country who have got similar problems, who don't see their children, and it's all painful, it's all horrible, but I just think sometimes if you overstep a mark, there's no coming back from it.
Fair comment.
You know?
Yeah.
And if anyone in my family had done what he did, and Piers Morgan says this as well, you would never see him for dust.
Okay.
You know? And that's how I feel. And I take your point. I think you're absolutely right to be more sentimental than I am about it. But I take a view that, you know, if you want to go to that extent to lose the people that brought you up and who love you, then I'm sorry, there's no coming back from it.
A line has been crossed which cannot be repaired.
I think so.
Okay.
Final word, because we've literally got 10 seconds. This guy on the front page of The Sun, who's the bloke who said he'd set the Maddie suspect free. Give us a view on it, quickly.
Okay, so Rebecca Coop, she's 39 apparently. She used to work as an investigator for what the Sun are calling the German FBI.
Yeah.
And they, of course, were investigating Christian Bruckner, the suspect. She left that employment, and apparently she paid a fine for Bruckner, some 1,300 quid, so he can get out of prison on the 17th of this month, because it was an outstanding fine. Quite a dispute about it. What I will say, the big headline thought from here, well done, the Sun newspaper.
Yeah.
If we don't have independent, well-funded, independent, investigative journalism like this, we won't be getting these stories.
No, exactly.
It's really
right.
important.
Peter, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Peter Blexley, of course, big tour coming up next year. If you haven't got tickets for it, go and get some now. It's coming up to just about 7 o'clock. We've got some news coming up later. James Hill from The Spectator.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash, 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 smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs.
People smuggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... Those... The smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, "I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source." Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer is on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work.
It's crap. It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words, I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration, ending the use of asylum hotels and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings.
It's like a parallel universe, the real world, as told by the impressive David Bolt, and Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves' fantasy world.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 7. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock. Julie Hartley-Brewer's away. We'll let you know who's going to be doing the show from then. Morning Glory this morning, full of all sorts of different stories, but included in the War of the Princes. We'll be talking to Kinsey Schofield coming up a little bit later on in this hour. Also, we want to talk about the NHS this morning because, according to the front page of the Daily Telegraph, 4 in 5 NHS hospitals are actually failing. The true scale of the broken health service is laid bare by Wes Streeting's new league tables. You know, basically, he's saying that the best and worst performing trusts in England are going to be named and shamed for the first time as part of Labour's promise to reform the broken health service. But the tables actually show that 107 of England's 134 acute hospital trusts, that's 80%, are considered to be failing because they are off track on performance and they are running financial deficits. According to Wes Streeting, I promise to be honest and transparent about the state of the NHS, and that's what we're doing. More than £200 billion of taxpayers' money is now going into the NHS, and we're not running an all-must-have prizes service. We're going to treat NHS leaders like grown-ups, give them the tools to do the job, and where they're falling short, we're going to hold them to account. Well, I've got one question for you this morning. If we're giving £200 billion a year to the NHS, why? is it failing? What's wrong with it? You know, how can you give that much money to something and just watch it get worse and worse and worse and worse? I don't understand it. Maybe you can explain. We want your stories this morning on how you're dealing with your doctors, how they're dealing with you, and if you've got appointments that are being made, are they being kept? Are you actually getting better, or are you getting worse? And is your health suffering as a result of the NHS being completely and utterly useless? That's what I think. If you've got some good stories to tell me about it, by all means, let me know. 03444991000 is the number. 87222, of course, is a text, and you can tweet us as well at talkTV. Meanwhile, we've got a new Home Secretary in charge of what is only ridiculously known as the Home Office, Shabana Mahmood. I'm afraid, despite the fact that people say she's a brilliant woman, she's very, very strong on all sorts of things, she was great at justice, I'm afraid she's just another talking head. She's got some clips out this morning saying that she's going to fix the visa problem, that she's going to fix the small boats problem, that she's going to have conversations with different lots of people, including the Five Eyes, who are, of course, the countries like New Zealand, like Australia, like Canada, like America. That's not where the migrants are coming from, man. You know, that's not who you need to be talking to. The French, meanwhile, who are supposedly our partners in taking people back, have basically performed an El Collapso. The government of France has disappeared up its own backside, and there isn't one, frankly. Emmanuel Macron doesn't know what to do, and there's going to be protests going on over the next 24 hours, and everything is going to hell in a handcart. So we'll be telling you about all of that as well. Also, how about this? Workers took a fortnight off sick last year. The number of sick days taken by British workers has risen to the highest level in more than 15 years. Staff have taken an average of almost 2 full working weeks off because of illness over the past 12 months. Unbelievable stuff. This is modern Britain, ladies and gentlemen, and this, of course, is Morning Glory. One here from Elsa, who says, "Good morning, Mike. The person who said the UK is going the same way as France was almost right. The whole of the EU is in a bad state, almost as though there was a connection. Just saying. Here in Italy, it's impossible to get an appointment for certain tests. My thyroid check is booked for October 2027. I took the appointment as offered anyway, just to annoy them, but I'm convinced they're hoping you will go private, which I will probably do anyway. It looks like our health systems have run out of money, so it's not a good idea not to get sick anymore." And I think that is a big problem. I think it's a very good point. Let's talk to James Hill, Deputy Political Editor at The Spectator. But just before we do that, listen to this from Belinda on reshuffles.
Morning, Mike. Belinda here. Just wanted to say about all this reshuffle. For instance, if you worked in a supermarket and you worked on the tills and something happened within the company that you worked for, that somebody left, they wouldn't then move that person working on a part-time till to become the manager and expect them to know how to run the business. And I feel like that is what is happening with this parliament. They keep moving people around from department to department, and they don't know what they're actually doing. They have no experience whatsoever. I just don't get why they keep doing this. They need to run this country like a proper business with professionals, and it's just not happening, and that is why we're in the state we're in. Great show, Mike.
Belinda, thank you very much indeed. It's not unusual, is it, for politicians to think that by moving people around, somehow they refresh the government, somehow they give it a new lease of life, and somehow the public are going to be convinced that they're doing something. But the reality is they're not really doing anything. You just heard from Wes Streeting there saying we're putting £200 billion a year into the NHS, and it's not working. James Heal's here. James, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
I mean, I don't know what to say about this reshuffle and this government and the fact that it isn't working. And if you can actually be Wes Streeting, and maybe you can, you know, admire him for his honesty, if you can actually physically stand somewhere and say, we're putting £200 million, £200 billion into an organisation every single year, and it's not working, I mean, what do you do with that?
Well, what you try and do, Mike, is you get productivity gains. And I think that there's an argument that, as you were saying, there we're a sicker society than we were, and so we need to look at how we're dealing with that. But the key question, of course, is are the government going to get those efficiency gains they need, which gets the health service more productive in the future? And I don't think they are going to get the kind of pound for their buck, you know, that they ought to be getting, the sort of fiscal firepower, because actually a lot of the pay rises that were agreed were without mentioning the way of conditions. We're not seeing the kind of speed and rollout of the technology that we'd necessarily need to. So there is the question, of course, if will the health service be in the fit state it needs for Labour to win re-election in 2029? I'm not so sure it will be.
No, But I mean, they did promise, did they not, when they got in, that they would fix the doctors' problem, they would fix the doctors' strike, they would give them an extra 23 billion. That would solve the problem. It hasn't. They said that they would fix the problem of the NHS not being an honest and useful organisation. They claim that they've made 4 million new appointments. It's one of the things that they claim is a great success of Labour. But by the same token, they're admitting that it's not working.
Yeah, and I think that, look, there's some measures that West Streeting are doing, which I think will be applauded sort of across the spectrum. I mean, I think that having the sort of new league table that he's announcing today is going to be broadly a good thing. But I do think, yeah, there is the question about, are they going to get the return on the investment they need? And the question, of course, as well, Mike, is that even if they do pull off the unlikely, the unfathomable, and manage to turn the NHS into a world beater in 4 years' time, by that point, the salience in which voters place on the NHS and health could then diminish, and it could then slip down the ratings. And then, of course, still other issues will take their space, namely about stopping the boats, the migration crisis, and what looks like economic growth and the lack of it, which is why it's going to be announced and talked about at Cabinet today.
Yeah, first Cabinet meeting since Friday. Rather amusingly, Peter Blexley, who was just here, said, do they all know where they're going to sit? You know, how does it work in Cabinet? Do you have to sit in a specific sort of order? How does that go?
Yeah, you have it's like a dinner party, so you have a name and a place where you sit. So traditionally, the Cabinet Secretary will sit next to the Prime Minister. Opposite the Prime Minister will be the Chancellor. And basically, the more important you are, the closer you are to the centre. And if you're on your way out, you might find yourself shuffled down the table is a good way of thinking about it.
Right. So it's kind of an interesting thing for David Lammy then, isn't it? Because he was sort of demoted, but then sort of thrown the bone of being Deputy Prime Minister to make it not look as if he was being demoted.
Yes, so he might keep his seat, but of course, clearly, you know, Deputy Prime Minister is very much the sort of, I don't know, sports day sticker of offices in this country. It means absolutely nothing, as Bernard Ingham so famously ridiculed Geoffrey Howe 30 years ago.
Yes, although I dare say it probably means something for Angela Rayner when she stood on the pavement outside of Admiralty Gate and watched as David Lammy moved all his stuff in and her stuff came out onto the street.
Well, of course, you know, she has to decide which house to go to. I mean, look, I think that, yeah, and it's, of course, the question of whether David Lammy is now going to stand to be deputy leader, because that's the big race that's tearing apart the Labour Party. And I was there last night in Parliament, and it was really interesting seeing, you know, lots of the kind of, and hearing lots of the discontent about that reshuffle last week. Yeah. And she knows it's out of joint. And so I'm really keen to see which of the various women who Keir Starmer sacked is going to end up replacing Angela Rayner.
Well, indeed. And the Mail have got a really interesting spread today saying basically Labour are now, you know, if they're not already in it, they are about to enter civil war because the likes of Emily Thornberry, who hasn't forgiven Starmer for not giving her a job in the first place, Lucy Powell, who he fired on Friday, you know, Louise Haigh, who he fired or who was made to resign, you know, sort of early doors last autumn, you know, they're literally lining up to stab him in the back, aren't they?
Yes, and of course what is striking is that the timetable of this contest means it will go on over Labour conference. It's the first time that we've had a deputy leadership contest without a concurrent leadership one since 1981, which of course was a famously bitter, acrimonious one, narrowly fought, won by Dennis Healey for the right over the left for Tony Benn. This time I think that it's going to be not even so much about sort of issues, but personalities as well. And really I think that what's going to define it is your relationship with Keir Starmer. And given we've got 4 or 5 weeks of this to go, I think it could turn into something which is pretty acrimonious and played out on the full glare of the public at conference.
Exactly right. I mean, given that he only sort of reshot the whole idea with phase 2 a week ago Monday, he must be waking up in the morning thinking, crikey, how much worse can this get?
Yeah, I think that, you know, they said a week is a long time in politics. I mean, phase 2 is a long time in politics. We must be on phase 3 by now. I think it does show that, you know, for however well-intentioned a lot of the Labour government's ideas were, actually, you know, some of the chaos was stupid and Tory self-inflicted, but a lot of it is just, I think, a feature of modern politics, which is that the news cycle is much quicker. We are quite... I think the general public is quite intolerant, given all the failures that have piled up in the public services, of anything that approaches a misdemeanour and scandal. And I think that Labour really ought to kind of understand that they can move people around and have the best people in place, but also a lot of this is about incentives and systems as well. Right. And I think there's nowhere better demonstrating that in their handling of the economy.
No, exactly right. Let me play a couple of clips. Emily Thornberry was on Laura Kuenssberg on Sunday. Here she is, attempting to make herself look like a friendly individual.
It's such a mixed picture, isn't it? I mean, we're doing so well internationally, and our standing is so much higher. We're back on the international scene. But domestically, things just don't seem to be working. I mean, there are things that we're doing which are fantastic, but nobody seems to know about it. You know, the highest wage growth, you know, building some homes, you know, having actually investing in green energy. All of these sorts of things are brilliant achievements, but nobody seems to be hearing about that. They hear about the mistakes. And the question is, why are we making these mistakes? We can't afford to keep doing this.
She runs out of the so-called brilliant achievements sort of after 2, really, doesn't she? The third one's not really an achievement at all, and I'm not even sure about the second one. But, you know, Emily Thornberry, does she have any friends in the room?
She does have a fair number of friends in the room, as I understand it. Of course, she ran previously for deputy leader back in 2020. People feel she was a bit hard done by in terms of what happened last summer. She was the only member of the cabinet. And of course, who got that job instead? Richard Hermer. And as one MP, I said to me, I mean, Emily couldn't have done a much worse job than what Lord Hermer's doing.
True.
So I think that, yeah, she's got a really good chance, actually. The only question, of course, about her is that she's a London woman, and you can't really have 2 North London barristers. And yeah, I think the only real difference between the 2 North London barristers, her and Keir Starmer, is that she's actually got a personality, albeit one that doesn't appeal to everyone.
No, I mean, she's not. I mean, certainly outside of whatever the Labour Islington set is, she's not somebody who's particularly well liked around the country, I don't think.
Well, I think that within Labour, a lot of these issues around identity matter. There's a lot of hurt feelings about the fact that 40% of the MPs who were sacked last week were from the North West. Greater Manchester, I think, lost 5 members, including, of course, Rayner and Powell.
Yeah.
So I think likely, with Louise Haigh ruling herself out yesterday, I think Lucy Powell is probably the front runner narrowly at this stage, but we've still got 2 days to go, and you need 80 nominations. That is a lot.
Yes, it really is. So is your bet that you think it might be Powell, then? Is it going to be a woman, no doubt?
I'm pretty sure it's going to be a woman. I'm not really sure that in the current Labour Party, where there is such an embarrassment about the fact they haven't had a female leader, that there could be 2 men running the party in the current circumstance. You could get away with it during the Corbyn years because obviously Tom Watson was the only way to keep out the Corbynites, so the right were happy to suck it up. But I'm pretty sure it has to be a woman.
Interesting. Let's have a look at what David Lammy had to say about the climate crisis. This is before his latest incarnation as Deputy Prime Minister.
Today I'm committing to you that while I am Foreign Secretary, action on the climate and nature crisis will be central to all that the Foreign Office does. This is critical given the scale of the threat, but also the scale of the opportunity, the chance to achieve clean and secure energy, lower bills and drive growth for the UK.
I'd forgotten there was a nature crisis, to be honest. He's only just reminded me.
I mean, look, that speech was given about 3 months ago, and he's gone already. So, I mean, clearly, I mean, not everyone in Downing Street thought the same about the importance of that nature crisis. And look, what does it mean for the government? They came in promising progressive realism. There were these endless interviews sort of touting David Lammy and suggesting he was a great sort of thinker, the great Talleyrand of our age, etc. And now it's all over. So Yvette Cooper has that role, and David Lammy can get on with the business of running the Justice Department.
And meanwhile, talking of climate, Ed Miliband apparently was offered the chance to move on and didn't take it, which tells you that Keir Starmer is not only insubstantial as a leader, but completely and utterly unable to make his ministers do what he wants them to do.
There was a great line which described last week's cabinet reshuffle, which was the Morecambe and Wise reshuffle, which was that everyone kept their jobs, but everyone kept their status, but they were in different jobs, which suggests that Keir Starmer thought they're all the right people, but in the wrong order. And someone replied to that when I wrote it in the article, and they said that I think it's half right. You know, he's got all the people in the wrong jobs and in the wrong order as well. But look, that's because I think that he was actually unable to move many people out of cabinet. He only sacked really Lucy Powell, and Ian Murray got a job elsewhere. So as a result of that, I think we have got a pretty weak Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And that's demonstrated by the fact he can't move Ed Miliband.
No, exactly. And Louise Haigh is also kind of hanging around in the background, a woman who was apparently quite influential in stopping the welfare reforms from going through on the back benches. Let's remind ourselves of how she resigned live on air. She lied, and she was convicted of fraud, and she's a Minister of the Crown. I find it extraordinary. She'll surely have to resign, won't she? Oh, hello. Breaking news. She's just resigned. Are you serious? Louise Haigh has just resigned. She's obviously started listening to Morning Glory, and she's 10 minutes in and she's gone, I can't take this. So Louise Haigh. So another one bites the dust.
Yes.
What a shambles this government has become. Deary me. Deary me. Sorry. Standards in public life he's going to restore. So then he appointed a woman who's a convicted fraudster to be the transport secretary. I mean, back then we thought that was a surprise, but I mean, there's been so much since then that it kind of just fades into insignificance, doesn't it?
I mean, the corruption minister resigning over the Bangladeshi aunt. You had Angela Rayner not knowing the rules around council tax and homes. I mean,
let's not forget the homelessness minister sacked for making people homeless.
I mean, the level of irony is just fantastic. So I think it's a bit like during the Tory years when they kept announcing things in Crime Week and then someone would be found guilty of wrongdoing.
Right. I mean, it's literally John Major back to basics all over again, isn't it?
Yeah, no, precisely. And I'm sure we'll see many more of these. We're only 1 year into this government and, they're on 20%. So I think the question may be, how low can they go?
Well, how long can Keir Starmer keep his job, I think would be my question to you.
Well, really interesting. I wrote an article this week for The Spectator which talks about the fact that this was Morgan McSweeney's reshuffle. And someone from the soft left of the party said, this is Morgan's last throw of the dice. He's got the cabinet he wants. He's got the government he wants. They're all focusing on the boats. These are the issues they want to focus on. And if they can't pull it off in a year and things are getting worse, and let's face it, Mike, next year, they're probably going to come a bad second, even third in Scotland. They're probably going to lose Wales for the first time in more than 100 years. And they're probably going to lose seats to places like the Gaza Independence in London and Birmingham. And after that happens, I think there'll be a real potential for a leadership challenge of some kind.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely right. James, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. James Hill, Deputy Political Editor at The Spectator. And let's get a voice note from Kitty on the NHS.
Good morning, Mike. Kitty from Kent here. Just a quick note to say that the nationally funded National Health Service will never ever work because not only is it ideological, but also it has an international clientele, most of whom don't pay into it. It just cannot ever succeed, and the hard put upon British taxpayer is always the loser. Have a lovely day.
Kitty, thank you very much indeed. 21 minutes past 7. This from where is it? I haven't got a name. I can vouch for the fact that the Countess of Chester Hospital is the second worst in the country. I was a nurse there for nearly 30 years and now I've been waiting 18 months for an urgent appointment. Blimey. Steve says this, Mike, Deputy Prime Minister does mean something. He actually could be running the country if and when Starmer is indisposed, and that's blooming frightening. Yeah, I can see how you mean that. And one from Natasha who says, Mike, my daughter was supposed to have a procedure performed today at her GP surgery in Salisbury. She booked this weeks ago in order to arrange a day she could take the time off work. Yesterday, this procedure was cancelled with no explanation and no consideration of the fact that she works. Try ringing the surgery to find out what's going on and nobody knows why. Bloody useless. How can you put 200 billion quid a year into an organisation that doesn't work? How can you lose 200 billion pounds a year into a black hole where you don't get anything back? I find it extraordinary. Coming up, talking of black holes where you don't get anything back, Prince Harry's in Britain and he's fighting for his life because he wants to be loved, but he doesn't know how. Let's talk to Kinsey Schofield. She, of course, will explain.
the understanding of quite how rotten the state has become, the sclerotic nature of our civil service, the legislation that has hamstrung us, the international treaties that prevent us being a democratic nation, that these things need to be undone, and the best people, the most committed people from all parties need to decide that. The two who are most on this side are the Conservatives and Reform.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham, 26 minutes past 7. We are here, of course, for the duration. This from Chris in Newbury says, Mike, I may be joining the Labour Party urgently. The sooner Emily Thornberry is the new deputy leader of the party, the longer Labour will be rejected to the wilderness by the British people. Is it possible for Lucy Powell to do a job share with her? Yeah, that might be a good idea. Front page of the Telegraph has got Harry's back home. Picture of Harry looking a little bit dishevelled, actually. His beard looks like he could do with a trim, and his hair looks like it's falling out even more than it was before. It says he won't see William. It says he travelled to Windsor yesterday, where he paid his respects to Elizabeth II, his grandmother, let's face it, on the 3rd anniversary of her death. He was just 8 miles away from the Prince of Wales. It was another royal engagement, but they did not cross paths. We're going to speak to the only woman we need to speak to about this, Kinsey Schofield, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, of course. Kinsey, very good morning to you.
I mean, the dishevelled, you really hit the nail on the head there. Prince Harry he's trying, Mike.
This is me trying. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, this is me trying.
He's got the soundtrack of Taylor Swift going on in the car as he drives. No, but he's starting to get that. You know, when men kind of start to go to seed a little bit, they were kind of handsome, they were kind of dashing, they were kind of quite interesting looking. He's now starting to look a bit like he's a bit past his sell-by date, gone to seed.
It's interesting that you say that, because that was one of the most hurtful things he says about Prince William in Spare. It's like unnecessary. He says in Spare that Prince William's losing his good looks and he no longer looks like their mother, and he's lost all of his hair, and I'm like, how is that relevant to your story? Okay, if this is a book about you and your life, how is such cruelty, how does that relate to who you are?
Right.
It was an unnecessary dig at his brother. And you're like, no wonder Prince William was like, pack my schedule all week. I want to be on the road. I want nothing to do with this guy. Right. And also, when we say pay respects to his late grandmother, the least he could have, do while she was alive was pay any sort of respect to her. But he treated her family like garbage towards the end of her life.
Totally so. And so much of what he wrote in that book was unnecessarily harmful and nasty and horrible to his own family. And for him to now, Peter Blexley was just here and he said, look, if it was my family, I would urge these boys just to get back together and stop, bury the hatchet and just get on. I said, yeah, but sometimes things have gone so far that you can't forgive people. And he didn't need to do most of that stuff.
You're absolutely right. And they're not just a family, they're an institution. And I love the monarchy. I believe in the monarchy from afar, from a foreign country that fought a war not to have it. And it's not just about a family, it's about protecting the future of the monarchy and the institution for not only Prince William, but Prince George. Yeah. And so King Charles knows that he's jeopardizing that with any sort of meeting with Prince Harry. Prince Harry goes off and tells American media, or he podcasts about it, or will put it in a book. So I think that the king is right to be incredibly careful. And I certainly side with Prince William and his just refusal to associate with his brother.
Totally. I mean, let's have a look at what Harry said last time he was here about reuniting with his family.
I would love reconciliation with my family. I've always
there's no point in continuing to fight anymore. As I said, life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff. But it would be nice to reconcile.
Yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it? It would be nice if you didn't behave like such a complete and utter boorish, self-confessed idiot who's simply obsessed with his own life,
Yeah. What killed me when that interview initially came out as an American media commentator was that last quote was the one that they all fixated on, like the reunion, the reconciliation quote. They ignored half the interview where he accuses his family of being a part of this huge campaign that is jeopardizing his security and putting his family in harm. An establishment stitch-up is what he describes it at one point. And he says, my father could just step in and change all of this. And he's putting a lot of blame on his dad for everything that's going on. And so I feel like we need to have if we're going to listen to that interview, there needs to be some balance. And we have to acknowledge the fact that he still attacks his family in this BBC interview.
Right. And he asks the question, I don't know how long my father has.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really not something you would say. I mean, both my parents are dead now, but if my father was suffering from cancer, I wouldn't say in a public forum, I don't know how much longer my father has. You just didn't do it.
Right. You're absolutely right. I think that was incredibly harmful. And there were several reports after the fact that said that the palace was angry about that because they want the king to look strong. They don't want him to look weak, and they don't want there to be a lot of questions about his health because they want to focus on the good he's trying to do in elevating some of these causes. But, Harry can come home anytime he wants to. We actually know that the palace has offered him a place to stay. If he'd like to stay at Buckingham Palace, probably one of the safest places in the world, he's allowed to stay there. In the past, it's been reported that he's rejected that. 9 times out of 10, he's granted the type of security he wants. And I truly think that this is less about security, more about his little ego, and more about control. He hates the fact that he is an adult that would have to tell Ravik 28 days ahead of time when he's coming and what he plans to do while he's there. I think it's all just an excuse so Meghan doesn't have to come back. But it's just this constant demand for public sympathy as well. Even that joke he made last night at the Wellchild Awards about siblings can be challenging. That's him trying to find some sympathy from the public because his brother wants nothing to do with him. These are the consequences of your own actions, my man.
Exactly right. And here he is talking about his royal security case, which he also seems to have now just given up on, right?
What I'm struggling to forgive, and what I will probably always struggle to forgive, is that a decision that was made in 2020 that affects my every single day, and that is knowingly putting me and my family in harm's way. Everybody knew that they were putting us at risk in 2020, and they hoped that me knowing that risk would force us to come back. But then when you realise that didn't work, do you not want to just keep us safe? Whether you're the government, whether you're the royal household, whether you're my dad, my family, despite all of our differences, do you not want to just ensure our safety? And I'm calling for the Home Secretary and the government to do a review of Ravik. And I'm also asking for an R&B assessment that I haven't received since 2019.
I mean, what a self-important little Wally, I'm afraid, is all I can come up with.
Yeah, I mean, well, like I said, Harry, you are protected. You have to give Ravik 28 days notice in your itinerary. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. I think it's all about not wanting the royal family to know what's on his agenda, not wanting to give anything away. And it's like, I love when he's like, and when we wouldn't come back. Nobody wants you back, Prince Harry. I can't stress that enough. And I have heard, actually, I read this in the Times over the weekend too, that Harry is quietly campaigning to try to get his way when it comes to government security. And that for me, is why he won't see his father during this trip, because every time he reaches out to his father, he wants something from him. And his father is dealing with so much. I imagine that's incredibly exhausting.
And the thing is, while he comes to this country repeatedly, he gets the protection that he wants anyway, doesn't he?
He does. I mean, I think it's more times than not. He absolutely gets the protection that he wants. So I think that this is about garnering sympathy from the public. He is really struggling with being at the bottom when it comes to popularity. If you look at the YouGov polls, he's right next to Prince Andrew, for the love of God. Who wants to be there? Not me, not even Ghislaine Maxwell.
Exactly right. And meanwhile, Meghan's new show has not done terribly well, has it?
Well, and did you know today, Meghan and her sister, they won't physically be there, but in a court in Atlanta, Meghan's sister is trying to she wants to be able to take Meghan to court over defamation because Meghan writes, or Meghan said during the Oprah Winfrey interview, and says a couple of things during the Netflix series, dismissing Samantha Markle as her half-sister. So Samantha filed a defamation lawsuit against Meghan in Tampa, Florida. In 2022, the case was dismissed, but Samantha has since taken her appeal to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. And so her latest effort is going to be argued in Atlanta today. And the final decision is actually going to come later from a panel of judges. If Samantha succeeds, Meghan could be forced back into court for a trial and might even face potential damages. So this is probably something that Meghan is dreading having to deal with over the next few weeks, that decision. But this has not been a great year for Meghan, between all of the problems she's had with As Ever, which was originally called American Riviera Orchard, having to refund numerous customers because the product wasn't available, issues with the website not loading, her last series not hitting the top 10 at Netflix, and the disappearance of the Confessions of a Female Founder podcast.
And no members of the family on either side, really, that they can talk to.
Exactly. I mean, it's hard to do a Christmas special, Meghan Markle, about family when you literally have no one to pick up the phone and call when times are tough.
I know. Extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. I mean, they deserve each other, I suppose, is the only conclusion we can draw. And maybe one day that won't even work anymore. Kinsey, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Kinsey Schofield, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. Absolutely extraordinary. Let's get a voice note from Craig on the chaos at Heathrow yesterday.
I'm wondering if the mass hysteria event at Heathrow Airport could have been fed or triggered as a result of the government's emergency broadcast test at 3 p.m. on Sunday. Maybe that was still in the minds of people, which probably explains why I opted out of the whole thing entirely. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Craig, you may well be right. I don't know. Nobody seems to know what happened at Heathrow yesterday. If you were anywhere near Terminal 4 when this chaos happened, by all means, give us a call and let us know. This one from Ginny. It says, Mike, my GP sent me to A&E for a scan as my 3-day course of antibiotics hadn't worked. I waited in A&E 6 hours at the Medway Trust Hospital. When I was finally seen, thinking I've got something seriously wrong, right? They just roll their eyes and say the GP should never have sent me there. They would never scan me as I'm not sick enough, and that 7-day course should have been given, and now the infection is so nasty I need another week's course. No wonder the system is broken. GPs are just shoving everyone to A&E. What a sick joke. Well, isn't that the trouble? The GPs aren't doing their job, the hospitals aren't doing their job, the A&Es are failing because the people are waiting there for so long that they can't see people before they get even sicker. And meanwhile, £200 billion a year later, the whole system is collapsing. How is it possible to make something work so uselessly and so badly with so much money? Don't understand. 0344 499 1000. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:41. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock. Yesterday afternoon, a lot of us from here at Talk went down to Kent to celebrate the life of James Whale, MBE, of course, who passed away just a few weeks ago. And what an incredible service it was. A very meaningful, very emotional, a very special day, actually, for those of us who knew James very, very well indeed. And we might well actually, what we probably should do is maybe play a little tribute to James at some point today, if we can organise that. But let's have a quick voice note from Keith on the funeral.
He broke the mould when James Whale was made. He was honest and truthful. Called a spade, something that's sadly missing in today's society, and we need a James. Good night, James. God bless. Sleep well.
Keith, thank you very much indeed for that. Yeah, let's do that. Let's try and put something together. We'll play it before the end of the show because it was a remarkable day and so many unusual and interesting people turned up who would never normally be in the same room with each other, but who were in this beautiful 13th century church down in Kent, not far from Maidstone. And then we celebrated at one of his local favourite pubs, where much food and drink was taken, and we all had a great time remembering him and telling stories about some of the more outrageous stuff that he did. So we'll bring you a bit more on that as we go through the show. Right now, though, let's talk to Anne-Elisabeth Moutet, French journalist and columnist at The Telegraph, because it would appear that things are going from bad to worse over in France. Front page of the Times today, Emmanuel Macron loses another prime minister days before protests and strikes. I was speaking to a friend of mine in France the other day who said that what is coming in the next couple of days will be much worse than the Gilets jaunes, if you might remember that from a couple of years ago. Anne-Elisabeth, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Good to talk to you. So, I mean, we know that in France, you know, chaos is something that you're used to. It's not so unusual for the government to collapse, and in the last sort of few months there have been several opportunities for it to happen. But how is the nation feeling this morning?
The nation is feeling, I would say, a bit exasperated because ever since Emmanuel Macron called a snap election a year and 4 months ago, which he didn't have to call. There has been instability in ways that we don't remember since pre-de Gaulle days. And there's also the idea is every now and then you need to shake up the place, but it was completely useless, and it seemed like a kind of self-indulgence from the president.
Yes.
And now his last prime minister, who barged into the Élysée palace 9 months ago when Macron was about to appoint somebody else, and who bullied essentially the president who once called himself Jupiter. Macron let him run it, even though we knew he was an old-fashioned centrist who'd never been first rank. He had cabinet jobs before. He was never considered prime minister. And we've basically wasted 9 more months in a country that can't afford it because our debt is still higher and higher. We are now a worse economy than Italy, and that is worrisome.
Yes, indeed. And as far as the sort of demonstrations and a general strike that is coming, what effect is that going to have on not just France, but on people who are trying to travel through France or fly over it or anything like that?
We've got 2 days of, quote, action, which are more days of inaction. And they're not quite the same thing as the usual general strikes that you've had in France. And we're not quite sure that they will have the same effect. But tomorrow, on the 10th of September, the whole country is supposed to be blocked. And that means you don't go to work, you don't send your kids to school. And there are lots of activists, we've seen many of those activists in recent months and years, are going to do things to basically mess things up further. For instance, leaving unattended packages in as many sort of examples of public transport as they can find, which of course would halt down everything for safety reasons. They said that they would lie down on the tracks. And what's very interesting is the people who now say this are left-wingers, the usual suspects, but the whole thing started almost, a month ago during the holidays, and it was a hard right thing. You just quoted the Gilets jaunes. You're absolutely right. The Gilets jaunes were not especially leftist. They were just tired, and they wanted different things. So you've got this kind of horseshoe thing in which the hard left and the hard right get together and say, we're going to stop absolutely everything and we'll do it again next week. And what they expect, we don't know. We know what the hard left want. The hard left and Jean-Luc Mélenchon, their leader, have said, we want insurrection. And that's understandable because they pull about 20% of the vote and they'll never get to power otherwise. But if you bring a government to fall, and if you use the exasperation among the French that the country is not well run, which is such that MPs have voted against this government, anything can happen. So we are in uncertainty right now.
Yes, very much so. Well, we should keep our eyes very closely peeled and looking in your direction. Anne-Elisabeth Moutet, thank you very much indeed, French journalist and columnist at The Telegraph, of course. Got this from Jeremy in Tel Aviv. He says, good morning, Mike. Please can you mention the horrific terror attack that took place yesterday in Jerusalem, where 2 Palestinian terrorists from the West Bank killed 6 innocent people at a bus stop and many more were injured. Later that day, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer hosted the Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas at 10 Downing Street, and not a single mention or condemnation of the attack. Love your show. Thanks for all your amazing work. Yeah, I mean, Keir Starmer's timing could not have been worse on that, could it? And he didn't raise the issue of the attack, and he should have done, because he's got the kind of leftist apologist attitude towards Palestine. Oh, we're so sorry that you have such a terrible time. No mention of the fact that, Hamas and some of the world's worst people are Palestinian terrorists. Why can't they say it? Why can't they say it? What's so difficult about that? Let's get a voice note from Dan.
Hi, Mike. It's Dan from Kent. I think you've been a little bit harsh on our new Home Secretary. She solved the prison crisis by letting them all out. I've taken that same strategy and I've got a hole in my roof. It's rained. I put a bucket there. The bucket's now full, so I'm now going to empty the contents of that bucket on the floor and thus emptying the bucket. I'm wondering if she's going to use the same formula to solve the migrant crisis. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Great show anyway.
Dan, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, just let them all out of the hotels and wander around. I mean, that's probably the answer, isn't it? Yeah, I've solved the crisis. I've let them all out of the hotels and they're all just walking around the streets now, willy-nilly. Brilliant. Absolutely great. Dan, thank you very much indeed. Got a bit of breaking news, I think, which we're going to bring you in a moment, about Bridget Phillipson. But we're also going to talk to Hugh Andre, CEO of We Served, because he was not happy when he heard yesterday that one of Shabama Mahmood's new plans is to actually get rid of all the migrants out of the hotels and start putting them into military camps. But you can't say the word camps. Yeah, so here's the breaking news. Bridget Phillipson has thrown her hat into the ring to be Deputy Labour leader. More bad news for Starmer, because she was another one who, in the reshuffle, had some of her powers denuded because they apparently put Pat McFadden all over her and said, right, you're going to take away some of the skills jobs that she does, not skills she actually has, but she was overseeing the skills output for Labour, and apparently she is now obviously arming herself. There's every single woman in a Labour government would appear to want to have a go at Keir Starmer, because as we all know, thanks to Rosie Duffield, he has a problem with women. I wonder why. It's 10 to 8.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. Mike Graham here. It's 7:53. God, listen to that whining Harry. What a petulant prat, says Joe from Cambridge. Yeah, I can't disagree. John in Whitstable says, can you ask the next Labour person what they don't understand? If you tax less, that money gets spent in the economy and they get growth. It's not rocket science. Well, you would think so. Unfortunately, though, it's a bit difficult trying to explain all that to a socialist. They think all money belongs to them, and the only way they can actually get anywhere is to use public money, taxpayer-funded money, to put into things that we don't want them to do. Let's speak to Hugh Andre, though, CEO of We Served, of course, a man who knows a thing or two about the military. He's not particularly happy when it came out yesterday that Shabana Mahmood, the new Home Secretary, is talking about housing migrants and moving them out of hotels and into military bases, effectively. Hugh, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, not bad at all. Not bad at all. Tell me what's going on in the world of the military, because you know better than I do that some of the sort of barracks, some of the housing for military families is not exactly what you might call, you know, gold standard, and yet they're now being told that they may have to either possibly move out or evacuate or make space for certain members of the migrant community.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I think this is yet again another absolute slap in the face to our armed forces. And, you know, at a time, I'm grateful for you not asking me to come into the studio today, because obviously I'd be cycling or on my line bike, etc. But at a time where our one single reliable entity in the United Kingdom for getting things done is our military, we now insult them by saying, well, actually, we'll use your barracks and your real estate, of which there is a fair bit after government has slashed the size of our armed forces. But I just think that, you know, there are, according to a number of charities, between 2,500 to 3,000 homeless veterans at present. And we know the good work that Badger down in Cornwall does at his retreat for homeless veterans, and he's having to do that himself. We have 20,000 members of the armed forces, including their families, leaving military service every year. Where are they going to live?
Yeah.
And probably the one the incident that really upset me the most, as we mentioned before, is with bereaved families. Those who lose, you know, the individual, whether it's the husband or wife serving in the military, they're given less than 12 weeks to get out of their quarters. And that's why Gilly Carell set up Beyond the Wire.
Yeah.
Because we have between 15 and 19,000 bereaved families in the United Kingdom. Now, you know, when is a government going to look after our own first?
Yeah. And that is a very, very straightforward question, and one which they don't seem capable of answering. They talk a good game. I mean, only yesterday, Keir Starmer was putting out his tweets about creating 1,700 new jobs in defence contracting and talking about building our defences up, all of which is complete and utter cobblers, by the way. But he doesn't talk about the actual truth of what it's like to be a member of the armed forces and how badly treated they actually are.
Yeah, the ones who had absolutely zero pay rise.
Yeah.
But they don't whinge, they don't go on strike. It wouldn't surprise me if we hear they've been drafted in to drive the tubes this week.
Right.
And actually, and this is where I bang on about the importance of employing veterans, and you know better than anyone else, they're the kind of individuals who get things done.
Yeah.
Now, you know, let's cast our minds back to when we were in the pandemic and we needed 3 hospitals built, you know, in double quick time.
Yeah.
And literally overnight, we built 3 Nightingale hospitals, which obviously were never used. Now, you know, are you telling me that we can't build 3 facilities like that over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, exactly. Why not?
And contain all of those seeking asylum in one place and process them. And really, Mike, it comes back to me now. You know, when are we going to get the armed forces? When's General Walker and CGS and CDS, so that's Chief of the General Staff, Chief of the Defence Staff? You know, we're getting to a point now where we should just put them in charge and get them to sort things out, because they'll get things done.
Yeah.
Because at the moment we are just going to hell in a handcart.
I mean, it is incredible how badly prepared we are for everything. And this is the same Prime Minister, by the way, who told us, 2-3 months ago, we're going to be now setting ourselves on a war footing because there's going to be terrible problems coming down the pipe. We could not be less on a war footing, I don't think, than we are now, could we?
No, I agree. We're still under-resourced. It was all well and good saying that we're going to spend X, Y, and Z by 2030.
Right.
We should be spending the 2.5%. In my book, we should be going up to about 4 or 5%.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, take it off the welfare dole bludgers. Take it off the migrants and put it into bleeding defence and pay people properly.
Put it in there now.
Yeah,
absolutely. Not tomorrow, because tomorrow the horse may have left.
The horse will be dead, I'm afraid.
Yes.
But listen, Hugh, good to talk to you. We've got to run. Thank you very much indeed. Hugh Andre from We Served, an amazing organisation, relatively new. Go check it out, weserve.com. He's the CEO. It serves veterans as they do serve us. Coming up, we're going to talk to Ryan Sobey, Deputy Editor at The Sun. We've got many, many more stories. Trevor Kavanagh here as well. This is Talk.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
8722, start your message with the word talk. Who would you send to space and why?
The person I would love to send to space would be Mr. Keir Starmer. And then I would tell the Galactic Empire that he was part of the Rebel Alliance and let them blow him away with the Death Star. No Brits was involved, no fingers could be pointed.
You carry on taking the medication, George. Yes, I'd send all the Labour government to space with a one-way ticket and throw in the SNP for being useless. They're all a bunch of... Oh, all right, fair enough.
One person, quite frankly, I think needs to go to space in a one-way journey is Jeremy Kyle. He goes on about his age one more time, how he's 60 this year, he was 59 last year, repetitively over the course of the weeks and months. We have to hear him, I'm 60 this year, I'm 60 this year.
Richard Tice, did you put that cheeky bugger up to that?
I'm hoping he's going to send me the invoice, because that was absolutely brilliant.
Which MP would you send to space?
Oh, no, I'll get in terrible trouble if I answer that. But it's fair to say there's quite a long list.
The sad thing is about sending people into space on a one-way ticket is I don't think that we've built a spaceship big enough to take the lunatics off this planet. I mean, from the net zero loonies to the transgender loonies to the racists to the terrorists, there is just so much to the wokerati. We need some big spaceships.
Big spaceships.
Good evening. I never know how you're going to start this conversation, Jeremy.
Katy Perry went to space today, OK? Who would you send... I'd love her to say what I wanted to, but I'd never disrespect her. Who would you send to space who could never come back?
Well, I'd be happy to send Ed Miliband to space, I think.
Oh, that is an outrageous question to I'm not even going to answer that question.
Sam Matterface, so you get the job, yeah? Come on.
No, Sam Matterface, I tell you what... There's no.
I think David Lammy would be the person I'd want to send up in space and never come back again.
Yeah, the problem is how much would the bill be for him to munch through whatever food on the way there?
Hey, it worked.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 8. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock. Alex Phillips is sitting in for Julie Hartley-Brewer, who's away. If you haven't seen it or heard it lately, the Morning Glory podcast, of course, is out after 10 o'clock, around about 10:15, 10:30, once the show is over. Plank of the week coming up on Friday, of course. Don't forget to look out for that. Grumpy Old Men we're doing as well. Jeremy Kyle back this afternoon on Drive. You won't want to miss that. We'll be giving a little tribute as well to James Whale. We were all at his funeral yesterday in the afternoon down in Kent, not far from Maidstone. An absolutely beautiful day, an incredible service. His brother conducted it with absolute aplomb and great dignity and grace, and it really was a thing to behold. And so we'll bring you more details on that as we go forward throughout the course of the morning. We're here, of course, as I said, until 10 o'clock. Bridget Phillips, in breaking news, the Education Secretary, has decided to throw her hat into the ring to be Deputy Labour leader. She's not too happy with Keir Starmer either, along with all the other women in the party, because he took away some of her powers in his reshuffle on Friday and gave some of them to Pat McFadden, who's one of his enforcers, right? This man could not be more unpopular if he tried. Everybody hates him. Emily Thornberry is also in the running. She hates him because she was Shadow Attorney General in his shadow opposition party, but when he got into power, he didn't give her a job. We've also got the likes of Louise Haigh, a woman who he fired because she was a convicted fraudster as Secretary of State for Transport. She's up against him as well. And Lucy Powell, another woman from the north of England in a constituency that she wants to attack him from because he fired her in the reshuffle as well. He's managed to take his very, very big level of unpopularity to even greater heights over the last 4 days. There's going to be a cabinet meeting today for the first time since Friday, since they were all shuffled around. And one of the big stories that's emerged this morning is that Ed Miliband, the man who's in charge of energy and net zero, was asked to move to Angela Rayner's job to be the new Minister of State, the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Levelling Up. And he turned it down. He said, no, I'm not moving. I want to stay doing what I'm doing and stick with the net zero crusade. And it turns out that Keir Starmer's so weak that he couldn't actually convince him to leave his job and take up another one. Incredible. A couple of other stories going on this morning. We've got the NHS absolutely failing their people in this country. 4 out of 5 NHS hospitals is failing, according to some new figures published by Wes Streeting, the Secretary of State for Health. But also, apparently, workers took a fortnight off sick last year. Number of sick days taken by British workers has risen to the highest level in more than 15 years. Let's get a voice note from Charlotte.
Morning, Mike. Loving the show. Charlotte from Matlock here. So it's the highest rated sickness in staff for over 15 years. I thought we just lived through a pandemic. What's all that about? Answers on a postcard. See ya.
Answers on a postcard, indeed. You may well ask, Charlotte. Thank you very much indeed. I'm Mike Graham. This, of course, is Morning Glory. We'll take your calls, we'll take your voice notes, and, of course, you can text us on 87222. This from Ray in Liverpool. Good morning, Mike. My wife has just had to pay £1,365 for root canal work and a crown because her dentist stopped treating NHS patients. Illegal migrants get all dental treatment free, while British people who have paid tax and national insurance have all their working lives have to pay extortionate fees. How is this right? Well, it's not, is it? Simply not right. Peter says this. Morning, Mike. If Emily Thornberry becomes Prime Minister, you can be sure there won't be any more flags flying. Pete's in Suffolk. Yeah, she famously, of course, made fun of White Van Man a few years ago on Twitter, which she had to rescind, where she was sort of making fun of anyone who was flying an English flag outside their home, even if it was during the World Cup. These people are just relentless, aren't they? Absolutely relentless in their hatred of what is British, everything that's British or English. Dreadful. Let's talk to Ryan Sabey, Deputy Political Editor at The Sun. Ryan, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Good to see you. Bridget Phillipson just thrown her hat into the ring to be Deputy Labour leader. It seems to me that the wagons are kind of circling around Keir Starmer and none of them are very friendly.
Yeah, interesting that Bridget has thrown her hat into the ring in this. Now, I think the reason is number 10, Downing Street. We're just trying to find a candidate, someone who they can see as someone who is safe. And I think there was talks of yesterday of Alison McGovern being that candidate. But it seems Bridget Phillipson may be that person. I think what the trouble is, what Downing Street don't want is someone outside the tent sniping away all the time on every single issue, whether it's welfare or tax, what they want someone who is going to play by their rules. And I think Bridget Phillipson is someone who kind of ticks that boxes. She's got a high enough profile within cabinet. She's extremely loyal to the Prime Minister. I don't think there's any suggestion that she's going to be leaving her role as Education Secretary. And I think the interesting thing is it's all timed very, very nicely, the way that it's just fallen, in that she is making a speech to the trade union Congress today down in Brighton. So that is a good moment for her to sort of try and garner that support from the left. So timing-wise, it's kind of worked out quite nicely for Bridget Phillipson. And I think Downing Street will be happy that they've managed to talk around someone like Bridget Phillipson, who is, you've got obviously the top positions in Cabinet, Chancellor, Home Secretary, Foreign Secretary. It wasn't going to be one of them, but someone on that next sort of rung of senior ministerial figures. They seem to have got someone who can probably, win over those MPs first of all to get through to the next round. So I think number 10 will be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, the trouble is, though, that number 10 might want to make it a kind of centrist candidate, but the rest of the party don't, do they? I mean, the rest of the party wants to have a bit of a bun fight over it, because one of the things that they don't like is Morgan McSweeney's kind of, overarching personality leading the way for everybody.
Exactly, and you've got the government who are trying to almost out-reform with some of their policies, but at every single stage you have one of those policy announcements, you lose some of the sort of the parliamentary party, and I think that's really, really tough, and they've got to equate that. So that's why you want to. Lots of people in the Parliamentary Labour Party will want someone from the left to at least stand and give it a good go. But one of the big problems for the Parliamentary Labour Party is that you need 80 MPs to nominate you to get through to the next round. Right. And that's actually really, really tough. And the trouble is you're probably going to have several candidates from the left stepping forward, and they're just going to split the vote. And someone like Bridget Phillipson, it'll be maybe whipped. There may be some sort of semi-whipping operation going on from Downing Street and sort of the party hierarchy. Yeah. And she will just come through the middle. And then when it goes to the members, but I think the interesting thing is when it goes to the members, who they actually vote for.
I mean, Andy Burnham's out and about on manoeuvres this morning. Again, doing the rounds on various TV shows, not coming to this one, funnily enough. But he's kind of pushing this narrative that, they don't want to have a Labour Party that's too London-centric. They've got rid of Angela Rayner, Lucy Powell's gone. He's obviously very much pushing the idea that the north of England needs to be represented at a relatively high level in government. What's he up to?
Yeah, you do wonder whether underlying all of this, Andy Burnham is on some kind of manoeuvres. Now, I think every time he gets asked about this, he always downplays it. Yeah. He's very happy being the mayor for Greater Manchester. But you just wonder if there was an opening at some point, whether he comes back at some stage. But there was a concerted campaign yesterday afternoon. Lots of MPs taking to social media to say, look, let's have a candidate of the left, let's have a candidate of the centre, whatever, but they can't come from London. I think they just want to get rid of this kind of London-centric, Islington lawyer set that many people sort of pigeonhole the top of the Labour Party as. So I think they're trying to move away from that, or give the impression that they're moving away from that.
Yeah, but I'm not sure anybody's going to buy that particular scenario, because clearly there are people now preparing themselves for the moment, whenever it may come, and it may not come until next year, but it will come, I think, when Keir Starmer has to step aside.
Yeah, I mean, things are tough for this government and this Prime Minister. They've got up to, I think, a charitable description would be a challenging start to the past year. They haven't cracked down on illegal immigration. The economy, at best, is sluggish. So at some point, it's going to catch up with Keir Starmer, and people are going to say, is he the person to take us into the next election? So that's why people will look to the next sort of next rung of politicians who are sort of there waiting in the wings, whether it's Wes Streeting, would Angela Rayner come back? And I think the interesting thing is that the party membership and the unions and all that have a lot of sway in who actually wins the next leadership election. And it may well be that they turn left rather than going right with someone like Wes Streeting and look to someone like Angela Rayner to be that flag bearer of the left, someone who they feel they've just not had when you look at the welfare changes that Sir Keir Starmer tried to put through. Absolute horror on the Labour benches, and they may feel they want someone to actually represent them.
Right. And just to make matters worse for him this morning, the Telegraph's got a piece saying that Kemi Badenoch is actually going to offer to help him out on welfare. She's saying that basically his only chance of getting those significant welfare savings through the Commons is by working with the Conservatives.
Yeah, interesting speech. Kemi Badenoch will be making a speech this morning. Now, one thing that she's kind of offered, you know, a hand to Sir Keir Starmer to try and actually get these welfare changes through. Sir Keir Starmer, he as soon as there was any sign of rebellion on this, he seemed to run a mile from this. And this is why, you know, Rachel Reeves, you know, had her head in her hands over this. They were trying to find savings, and these welfare changes back in July, we're going to save £5 billion for the Treasury, which is a big, big figure when you're trying to draw up your balance sheet when you come to the budget. You take £5 billion away, you've got to find it from somewhere else when debt's high and the economy's not doing particularly well. So Kemi Badenoch will say, look, we'll work with the government to get this through. Now, the trouble is, to get votes through, the government relying on opposition votes is never a good look, particularly when you've got a majority of 160, 170 in Parliament. It is not look good. And also, the Keir Starmer walk into that trap of looking like a weak Prime Minister.
Sure. And obviously coming off the back of this past weekend, when Reform had their very successful conference in Birmingham, which appears to have kind of hoovered up not just some defected Tory voters, but actually some Labour voters from the Red Wall seats as well. Yeah, that's what it's going to do. I think the more that Nigel Farage is exposed out there and people look at him, they hear what he's got to say, and people actually take him, you know, extremely seriously as being a potential Prime Minister in waiting. He is going to gather up that support. Now, I think the interesting thing is the closer you move to the next election, or you've got Scottish and Welsh elections next year, people will judge how they are doing in councils and, you know, whether they're spending that money wisely, whether they're coming up with the right policies or what have you. So I think it's as well as, you know, as good as Nigel Farage is actually grabbing the headlines on a sort of local level and actually a results-based sort of, you know, program, which people can actually see whether Reform are actually going to do a good job. So, you know, Reform flying high, and I can't see anything changing from that for a good while yet. Yeah, indeed. And finally, you mentioned Wes Streeting, who might be sort of out in the cold slightly if Labour moves to the left. I mean, he's in the front pages today, certainly on the front page of the Telegraph. 4 in 5 NHS hospital trusts are failing, according to the first league tables of their kind, instituted by Wes Streeting, in fact, you know, who's now been in charge of the health service for the last 14 months. It's a bit of a gamble, this, it seems to me, you know, because on the one hand, you know, good for him that he's making it more transparent to see how your hospitals are doing up and down the country, but really bad news that so many of them are failing. Yeah, he's got I think he always knew he was going to have a big job on his hands when he came into government last July, and I think it was, you know, he sort of, you know, called on, you know, set up a couple of reviews to look at everything, and I think he just looked on in horror at what he saw. Yeah. But to see those results, you know, 4 in 5 seen as failing, he knows that he's got to turn around this pretty quickly. People always see, you know, immigration, the economy, the NHS as the big three subjects. It kind of seemed that the NHS was doing, you know, pretty well. Waiting lists were coming down, but when you see those numbers and those numbers of failing hospitals, that's pretty stark. And Wes Streeting will know that he's got a job to do. Yeah, absolutely right. Good to talk to you. Ryan, thanks very much indeed. Ryan Sabey, Deputy Political Editor at The Sun, of course. The breaking news, as we said, Bridget Phillipson throwing her hat into the ring to be Deputy Labour Leader. According to Ryan, that may well be something that Number 10 would actually like. It may actually want to sanction something like that. This from Steve. It says, morning, Mike. I've had 2 cataract appointments cancelled. On the second appointment, 6 of us were ready to have our procedure. All the usual checks were done. Our eyes had been numbed. Then the staff came out and said all operations have been cancelled. What? and why? And John in Kent says, morning Mike, reference to the NHS. I recently received a letter from my local hospital with the results of an endoscopy I had in February 2021. The letter was dated 14th of August 2025. Dear God, it's absolutely hopeless, isn't it? Let's get a voice note from Nick.
Your previous caller, Belinda, made a very good point. Currently, we have a retinue of useless ministers who have neither practical nor professional experience over the remit of their portfolios, which means de facto we're being governed by an army of young spads, most of whom will still have the cradle marks on their backside. Just a thought. Have a good day, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, you do get that sense, don't you, that the people kind of picking Keir Starmer's policies and suggesting the kinds of things that he should be putting out on his social media account are about 12 and a half. I mean, he really just doesn't get it. Speaking of which, while we're at it, why don't we just have a quick look to see what Keir Starmer's first lie of the day is. Has he put one out? Oh, here we go. 17 minutes ago, every patient in this country deserves the best possible care. That's why we're launching NHS league tables ranking every trust in England, delivering on our promise to drive up standards in our health service, our plan for change in action. Very good. Well, you've got a long way to go, matey, because apparently, according to your own league tables, 4 in 5 NHS hospitals are failing. Doctor! Doctor! Bring me a doctor! It's 8:19.
You can't try and snipe at the Conservatives for things that weren't our fault.
Oh, I mean, I
This
haven't
is
got
not one.
time. Don't tell your big mate Donald Trump to tell his big mate Vladimir Putin to stop killing people, then we can solve that problem like that.
You won't be surprised to know I disagree.
Why? Why do you disagree, though? Why do you want our young people left on the scrap heap? The court's time being wasted, laying down a ruling on what is a woman. You and I have been speaking for far too many years about
And
this.
actually, you know, I'm very grateful to you too, because you have always covered this topic.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock. Alex Phillips in for Julie Hartley-Brewer. A couple of NHS messages coming in. Christine says this: My friend had a letter last week telling him he was removed from the NHS list as he hasn't responded to an email about an appointment. He was referred for physio by his doctor 12 weeks ago for a trapped nerve in his back. This is the first he'd heard that he had had an appointment and has had private treatment in order to get back to work. Brilliant. A bill in Cheshire, NHS appointment scam. I need a blood test every 3 months. Results are reviewed a few weeks later. Then I'm sent another blood test form to use 3 months later. This year, they have sent me a review appointment reminder, which patients never attend, and are told I must not attend hospital for it. So they've created a new appointment I do not need to attend, but which will now show as completed on their stats. There's so much scamming going on inside the NHS. I mean, this is why when you hear any government minister saying, oh, we've created 4 million new appointments on the NHS, just know that that is complete and utter balderdash. Rubbish, nonsense, and complete and utter, I'm not going to say the word because I'll get into trouble, but basically they're just inventing appointments and cancelling them and moving them into from one column to another column to make it look like they're doing something interesting when they're actually not. Front page of The Sun this morning is all about the troubles that have got the two princes involved. King Jet's home sparking Harry meet-up rumours. A plane of thrones is what it says. More importantly, though, perhaps inside the paper, on page 10, Trevor Kavanagh is back. He's written a story, a feature about Keir Starmer now has two options: crash through or just crash. The Prime Minister is now currently being driven by panic. And there's a picture of him sort of looking through a window darkly, without much hope. And you have to say, Trevor, I think, has nailed it here. Trevor, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Good to see you, sir. I mean, I've been spending most of the morning so far talking about how, everywhere Keir Starmer looks, there's a woman with a dagger is about to plunge it into him. He seems to have sought refuge with Bridget Phillipson, who's apparently thrown her hat into the ring to be deputy leader of the party. And she's obviously the favoured candidate, but it ain't going to work out for him, is it?
No, I've been listening to your excellent programme, and some of your viewers and listeners have been nailing it as well. They've come up with some amazing examples of the chaos in this government. But what we've got is a Prime Minister who is almost on his last legs, not quite, because that's not the way the Labour Party works. It doesn't dump its failed leaders. It keeps hanging on to them. There's some strange sort of custom here that they'll cling to mum no matter what.
Yeah.
And in this case, there's possibly an exception, because Keir Starmer has suddenly declared war on his own party. He's decided that the only way that he's going to keep reform at bay is by doing something, or pretending to do something similar about immigration. And the point is, the rest of the party don't want anything to do with this, and nor indeed does Keir Starmer. I mean, our corkscrew Prime Minister, if he has any principles whatsoever, they would lie in sympathy with the party that he's now at war with.
Well, you would think so, wouldn't you? But the thing is that every time he appoints somebody new to the Home Office, and we've seen this with the Tories as well, they sort of start off as they mean to go on. We'll have a look actually now at Shabana Mahmood talking about this on what she's going to do about, countries that we issue visas to. But it makes no sense. Have a look.
I have one top priority in my job as Home Secretary, and that is to secure our borders. And so today I've been talking to our Five Eyes partners about what more we can do to work together to make sure that our borders are secure and that our citizens feel safe. We think that there is interesting space for collaboration, particularly on how we deal with countries who do not take their citizens back. So making sure that we are able to return out of our countries people who have no right to be in our countries and send them back to their home country. So for the countries that do not play ball, we've been talking about how we can take much more coordinated action between the Five Eyes countries. And for us, that means including possibly the cutting of visas in the future, just to say, we do expect countries to play ball, play by the rules, and if one of your citizens has no right to be in our country, you do need to take them back.
I mean, as Russ in Blackburn points out, Trevor, Mahmood just talks about the Five Eyes. That's USA, Canada, New Zealand and Australia. But that's not really where the boats are coming from, is it?
No, and I mean, the thing is that there are 2 points on which this completely scuppers her argument. First of all, a country like India, from which many of these migrants come, have huge trade deals with this country and is not going to be bullied by Mahmood on visas. What about Afghanistan? What about Pakistan? Both of those countries are filling those boats every day of the week, and they certainly won't take any notice about her threat. And also, the Five Eyes are those countries that you've just listed. They're not going to do the same thing, so we'll be on our own, pretending that we have the world with us, and the fact is that nobody's going to take any notice.
Yeah. But, I mean, 14 months into this new so-called Labour administration, you know, Shabana Mahmood, who for some bizarre reason is being hailed as some great sort of, you know, successful minister, you know, I think Darren Jones said that she'd solved the prison crisis. And I'm going, sorry, that must have passed me by. You know, she let 26,000 people out and the prisons are still full. So she hasn't really solved anything. But here we are, once again, you know, changing the deck chairs on the Titanic, and we've got a woman who says, oh, I'm going to talk to some colleagues about how best to stop the boats. It's not exactly it's kind of progress in reverse, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, Shabana Mahmood has come in with quite a glowing testimonial, not least from Michael Gove, which makes you automatically suspect that there's something wrong here. And the big problem, Mike, as you will know, and all your listeners will know, is that the Labour Party knows it's in real trouble, that it is almost certain to lose the election on the immigration issue alone, but it is fundamentally, as a party and as a government, refusing to do the very things that are necessary to deter that traffic. And one of the things that could be done straight away is to make it impossible for illegal arrivals to have access to any of the welfare offers that make this country so attractive to them. And we're simply dishing out things which infuriate taxpayers who have to fund them. Things like pocket money for migrants staying in luxury hotels, the access to the NHS, to dental care, that many of them, as we've heard from your listeners this morning, simply are not available on tap to people who live here and pay their taxes.
Well, this is the thing. And I mean, I remember the years ago when we used to have arguments with the lefties, when you would say, you know, we can't keep continuing to pay for these migrants coming here and scrounging off our services. And they would always say, oh, but they're not allowed to get benefits. They're not accessing benefits. But we now know that there's millions and millions of migrants who have come to this country who are overwhelmingly reliant on benefits for not just them, but for their families as well.
Yes, it's a huge drain on the exchequer and on the taxpayers. And it causes enormous resentment, as we've seen. Suddenly, the silent majority is raising its voice and showing its teeth, and they're beginning to march and rally around the flag and cause this government an even bigger problem. This is not going to go away. It's going to get much worse. We're seeing record numbers arriving, not lower numbers arriving. The idea that we're going to smash the gangs is a joke, and this is going to be the huge issue that Nigel Farage will capitalise on between now and the next general election.
Yeah.
And that's why Starmer and the Labour Party are so scared.
Yeah. They don't seem to have a clue about what to do they? I mean, last week they were full of the kind of the message that Nigel Farage is not a patriot, and they're trying to discredit him on the levels of, you know, he goes to America to talk about how this country needs to be talked down. You know, they've just got it completely wrong, haven't they?
Well, the thing is, it's worse than that in a sense, Mike, because they do know what to do. But it is fundamentally distasteful for them to actually implement the measures that are necessary. They will not do anything about welfare. They will not suspend or amend the European Convention on Human Rights, which basically blocks any move by Britain to stop the boats at all. And they will not take the action to send them back. We're sending a couple back every now and again to the places they've come from. But by and large, we are accepting people and we don't know what to do with them.
Yeah. I mean, the other big issue, which is going to be a problem for Starmer vis-a-vis Nigel Farage and Reform, is net zero. I mean, he tries to get rid of Ed Miliband, tries to move him along from his job as Minister for Energy and Net Zero. And Miliband refuses to go. What does that tell you?
Well, you just listed another item on the agenda. The reason why people are so furious is because they're seeing their electricity bills soaring to the highest levels in the world, simply because of the fads and fantasies of Ed Miliband. There are many other problems. I mean, we haven't touched on the economy itself, which is going to be the subject of this momentous crisis budget in November, which is the latest possible date ever in the history of budgets, simply because Rachel Reeves simply doesn't know what to do. And on top of that, you've got the trade unions asserting their muscle over workers' rights, strikers' rights, and you've got strikes actually underway in London and elsewhere. This government has wasted those 14 months you just mentioned, absolutely squandered a huge majority and 14 months in power. And where are we? We've got Prime Minister Keir Starmer fighting for his life.
Yeah. It's hard to believe, isn't it, that they've been this useless? I mean, you and I haven't spoken for a while, but it goes every week from bad to worse. I come in every Monday and I think, surely they're going to do something that's going to improve the lot of the government and a lot of the people, but they just haven't been able to do that.
No, and the horrible thing, Mike, is that we've got almost 4 more years of this. I mean, I can't believe it will last for 4 more years. I mean, the country cannot simply endure this sort of incompetence and crisis management and failure. So I think that at some point something's got to give, and people are banking on the fact that a catastrophe will arrive in the form of a financial crash, and we'll go cap in hand to the IMF, and the government will have to call an election. But that isn't necessarily on the cards. They can weave their way through this, and we could end up having a splintered government with a leadership crisis almost on a daily basis, a deputy leadership crisis, a prime minister at war with his cabinet and with his own party, and the party and the government at war with its own citizens, the people who voted for it. Basically, that's the situation we're in now, and it could get a lot worse.
Yeah, absolutely. What a terrible thought. Great to see you, though, Trevor. Thank you very much indeed. Trevor Kavanagh, legendary former political editor of The Sun, and, of course, now taking it slightly easier, but nevertheless still observing how dreadful this state of this nation is. Let's get a voice note from Judith.
Good morning, Mike. It's Judy from Altops, West Yorkshire. I think this government in Westminster, do believe what they're saying, that everything's going swimmingly in the country, because nothing they do affects them. They're cushioned. We pay all their bills, the utilities and the rents, etc., etc. So nothing affects them. If their gas or electricity goes up and doubles, we pay it, so they don't feel it. They feel nothing at all. They are living in a parallel universe. It's the same with these people coming in on the boats. They're not going to be putting an HMO next door to them. Nothing affects them, what they do. So they believe everything is just wonderful.
Well, Ed Miliband being branded an eco-hypocrite this morning in The Sun as well, because, of course, the Energy Secretary boasted in February that he'd installed a heat pump at his house. Now, I don't know who paid for that, but I can bet your bottom dollar that it was probably us. But it turns out that he's also got another property in Doncaster, South Yorkshire, and it's got a gas boiler in it. And he hasn't replaced the gas boiler. And worse than that, not only has he not replaced the gas boiler, but he's charged us for the bill for his energy, right? This is the Energy Secretary who keeps telling us that our bills are going down. Well, his bills are going down because he charges us for his bill. So we paid in February £121.18 for his gas and £47.73 for his electricity. I don't know what we've done since February, but I would imagine that he's still charging all of his claims to the public purse, to the taxpayer. And this is why these people are so disgracefully selfish, so hideously self-absorbed, and so ridiculously out of touch. Because, you know, I've got an electricity bill that I have to pay every month. You've got an electricity bill that you have to pay every month. You don't get the luxury of charging it off to the taxman. You don't get to say to Ed Miliband, you know what, I'm just going to submit this bill and get you to pay for it. But he gets to do that to us. What's going on? It's 8:37.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It is 8:39. This from somebody called Graham in Colchester. He says, "Morning, Mike. I'm in my 70s, so I've seen many Labour governments and I understand exactly what would happen before Labour won the election. The first time I voted was for Maggie and I was 25. I've not voted since the Conservatives stabbed her in the back. I've always respected Jacob Rees-Mogg and I believe Nigel would be wise to take advice from Jacob, who is very knowledgeable on the workings of Westminster." Well, he has said that he would offer that advice, and we'll see whether the guys at Reform will do that. And this one from Paul in Murcia, he says, "Is Mahmood having a laugh? Tremendous success so far. Gaslighting as usual." I think that's the trouble, isn't it? And one here from somebody who says, "Mike, I've noticed many Labour politicians begin an answer by saying, 'Look,' which always has me feeling like a small child who is about to be put right by the teacher." Yes, not always a quite right thing to do, though, is it? And the breaking news this morning is that Bridget Phillipson has thrown her hat into the ring to be Deputy Labour Leader, and that is generally being seen by everybody who watches Westminster as being sort of the favourite choice, if you like, of Keir Starmer, because he's getting a bit worried now that all these other women are lining up to stab him in the back, and he thinks he can get something out of Bridget Phillipson, because, of course, he's reaping the whirlwind of having to get rid of Angela Rayner, and there's now possibly a revolt coming because he wants to water down her workers' rights bill. So let's speak to Stephen Morris, who's General Secretary of the Workers of England, to see what he makes of it all. Stephen, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
Thanks very much for talking to us. I'm not sure where we are with Labour anymore, because every single day there seems to be one kind of flip-flop after another. You know, Keir Starmer on the one hand says he's going to be very proud of Angela Rayner and what she stood for. He then sort of admits that he has to let her go. He's now trying to water down, we are told, the workers' rights bill, and the unions are kicking off about it.
Well, Keir Starmer's only going to be liable to his paymasters, aren't he? And his paymasters are the unions.
Yeah.
And at the moment, they just don't seem to have any idea about the economy and how to get people into work. They're doing everything they can to make it more difficult for businesses to grow and to recruit. We've seen recent figures where unemployment's gone up for, 4.7% now.
Yeah.
The amount of jobs that are being advertised, the latest figure I saw was nearly 750,000 job vacancies have been pulled in 3 months alone. And so businesses are really struggling. And then you're going to bring something in that's going to cost businesses a lot more money to do and implement. And both the unions and Labour seem to be anti-worker. They just don't seem to be wanting to get people in work. And getting people in work actually has a benefit for the national debt and taxes, because it then takes them off the benefit system.
Yeah.
So, but some of the policies within the bill, it's just smoke and mirrors.
Right.
You know, like the flexible working, it says they're going to have a day one right to flexible working. The employer's got to say yes, but then they've got the same reasons of rejecting it as they've already got.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
and I mean, the one thing they seem to be specialising in is getting people out of work rather than into work, because they're talking about now using Pat McFadden to sort of, you know, focus, laser focus, as they like to say, on trying to get people off welfare. Surely one of the things you would want to do in that instance is to provide them with an opportunity to go and do some work rather than do no work.
Exactly. You know, you've got to allow the businesses to grow. You've got to allow them to invest. You've got to allow them to recruit.
Yeah.
They're not doing that now. And we've just seen another business go into administration, another high street business with 140 odd stores. They've immediately shut 32. So we're still seeing the adverse effect of Rachel Reeves' economics, if you want to call them economics. And
voodoo economics, I think we used to call that, didn't we?
Yeah, and then that brings me on to the thing to do with the unfair dismissal one. Yeah, I do believe it should be shortened from the 2 years to probably 1 year. But again, it's going to be a backlog. ACAS already have a 2-week delay in a 6-week process, so they're already backlogged. People were making frivolous claims on all kinds of things. So what do you do when you find out you take somebody on and just outside of their probationary period, their CV wasn't quite accurate. You know, can you easily get rid of them? Well, Keir Starmer didn't get rid of somebody who wasn't quite accurate on their CV. You know?
Well, no, in fact, not just one, but possibly more than one. But what about this other story that's hit the papers this morning, which is about the number of people taking a fortnight off sick last year? This is according to a Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development study, which has found out that staff have taken an average of almost 2 full working weeks off because of illness over the past 12 months. Apparently it's being attributed to an ageing workforce and a rise in long-term health conditions, but of course the leading cause of it all is mental health absence.
It depends in which sector you're looking at. If you're looking at normal private sector, then you'll find that it's probably lower because they have tighter sickness regimes, tighter on sick pay. We've seen where in the public sector people can be off for a year on full pay before they start to see a drop. And so they're going to play the system. Some people will play the system and they will take that year off on various things. Yeah. So the public sector is the problem one that needs addressing, because a private business will not allow you to keep taking time off because of the adverse effect. And they don't have public money. They're directly responsible for how much money they bring in from their clients. So there's more mental health issue claims going on, and we've seen that. But again, it's the employer needs to deal with various items. Deal with it appropriately. Sure. I've just recently dealt with one who the employer had no clue how to deal with it. So we help the employer and the employee, because going forward he'll be able to help other employees and hopefully not have them going off. So, but at the moment, the labour supporting trade unions don't want to help the workers. No. They don't want to help the businesses. They just seem to want to fund and have a political agenda.
Of course. I mean, I saw a story yesterday about Ofgem, I think, in which it said that the Ofgem are paying something like £10,000 a day to keep their offices open and running and, with electricity and all the rest of it. But except hardly anybody's ever in there because they all work from home.
Well, some working from home is quite okay. It depends what you want to do, but this goes again down to your workers' bill. They write straight from day one. Well, how are you going to track that person? And you've got a 9-month probationary period that the government wants to put in. Right. How are you going to track whether they're suitable or not? You've got to have them in the office. You've got to be able to see how they're working. And some businesses need you in the office. Yeah. It come to training. Other people in the offices knock off each other. So if you're in an office environment, people in that office learn from each other. They have a social environment as well as a business environment, and they learn from each other what the business is doing, how to assist the business and how to assist their colleagues. Working from home, that's where some mental health problems occur. And we saw that during the lockdowns, where there was people in 1-bed flats being told to work from home, and their mental health actually increased. And so you've got to get people out of the house at times. And their mental health gets better, different environments, different people. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, sitting around on your own at home is never going to be a good thing, even if you were pretty well in the first place. Absolutely ridiculous. Listen, great to talk to you, Stephen. Thank you very much indeed. Stephen Morris, there, General Secretary of the Workers of England. Coming up, we're going to be talking to Stephen Barrett, a lawyer and writer, of course, and also we're going to be talking to Justin Allen, Chief EFL writer at The Sun. Big game coming up for England tonight against Serbia. And also, by the way, Yvette Cooper. Should we have a word about her? Yvette Cooper put out a picture yesterday after the recent state visit and summit. Relations between the UK and France are stronger than ever. It's a shame the French government appears to have completely collapsed. Anyway, she's been chatting away to some bloke called Jean-Noël Barrot, who is the Minister of European Affairs in the French government, which has collapsed. And she's put a picture out, right? And this is it, of her on the phone to him. Now, everybody knows who works in government and who observes people who work in government, that when you make phone calls in government, they tend to be made on secure telephone lines. They are not made on mobile phone lines. But here she is on a mobile phone. It's a bit one of those, when you see people pretending to be on the phone and they're holding it to their ear, and then suddenly it rings and they go, I didn't realise I was pretending to talk on it. I don't know why it did that. And that's what we're seeing here. So there's more lies, more sort of subterfuge and general kind of dishonesty from this Labour government, who can't seem to lie straight in bed. I don't know what's wrong with them. What's wrong with telling the truth? You know, call me old-fashioned. Would you mind just telling us the truth once in a while, for heaven's sake? It's coming up to 8:49.
Home, they decided, you know, the risk of doing it was lower than the risk of not doing it.
And it also took away some of the headlines, I suppose, from the, you know, the specifics of Angela Rayner. Not that they disappeared, but it meant that the big headlines by the 6 o'clock news was the reshuffle rather than the resignation.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham, with you all the way through until 10 o'clock. Alex Phillips in for Julie Hartley-Brewer. The podcast out, of course, around about 10:15, 10:30. If you've missed any of the show, don't worry. We will catch you up with it. Absolutely no problem at all. Michael says this. Mike, this government knows they will not get in again and they are going to do as much damage as possible in the time they have left. This will leave Reform a mountain of problems to sort out when they are elected in. Well, we'll see about that. Coming up, though, we're going to speak to Stephen Barrett very shortly, our favourite lawyer, who's going to tell us what he makes of the Palestine Action scenario currently. People are saying maybe the government should reverse their prescribing of them. Otherwise, they're going to just have to keep arresting hundreds and hundreds of them every time they go out on a demonstration. First, though, it's time for 90 minutes in 90 seconds.
90 minutes in 90 seconds.
From The Sun.
And Justin Allen's here with us, chief EFL writer at The Sun. Justin, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
It's all about the big game tonight, Serbia, right? What's going on?
Yeah, well, England face Serbia tonight, crucial qualifier, toughest game that we've faced so far in the group. And the manager, Thomas Tuchel, has warned the England players that they face a horror tunnel walk. the Free Lions, they have to walk through a 240-metre long tunnel to get into the actual stadium itself. It's going to be lined by armed police. So I've been to the stadium. It's the Rajko Mitic Stadium in Belgrade. I've been there myself a couple of times. Very intimidating place. But really, that sort of atmosphere, it should really get the blood pumping of the players. And let's face it, the last, I think, 4 performances, or 5 performances actually, under Tuchel have been very underwhelming, to say the least.
No, indeed. I mean, the other, I suppose, slightly more serious problem is that, yes, intimidation is there, but also there's a fair bit of racism sometimes in Serbia and at Serbian games, and the players can sometimes be affected by that.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, England have got a number of black players in the squad, this game actually tonight, Serbia have to have 15% less of their capacity as a punishment from FIFA because 2 games against Switzerland, their fans were found guilty of, racial abuse against Swiss players, and also they attempted to burn the Albanian flag.
They like doing a bit of that, don't they?
They certainly do, and as I say, I've been there a couple of times myself, and it's extremely hostile. It's kind of strange though; they only got 15% punishment on the capacity. I remember England having to play a game behind closed doors. Obviously, for fans getting into Wembley without tickets. I would personally think that racism's a far worse offence.
You would have thought. So, what are you hoping for here? Do they just need to try and get a win? I mean, will a draw do? What do you think?
Yeah, it's the old cliche. It's about getting the job done. But to be honest with you, I think fans are getting fed up with that. I watched the Andorra game the other night.
That was dreadful, wasn't it?
Oh, it's absolutely awful. And to put it into context, actually, after the game, when I was down the pub watching it, we switched over to a League Two game between Gillingham and Bromley. Far more entertaining. So, no, what I want to see a bit of passion now. I want to see us move the ball quicker. Yesterday, Thomas Tuchel was on about playing more long ball, getting long throws in the box. I know that doesn't sound very modern, but actually, sometimes against these sort of oppositions that just sit behind the ball, sometimes that's the way to play, I have to say.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, we should wish them well, and we'll see how it all goes. Thanks very much indeed. Justin Allen there, Chief EFL writer at The Sun. That was 90 minutes in 90 seconds.
90 minutes in 90 seconds.
From The Sun.
Now, let me talk now to my learned friend, Mr. Stephen Barrett, who is, of course, here to talk to us about what's going on in the world of Palestine Action, because apparently some MPs are saying it was a really stupid idea of the governments to actually prescribe them as a terrorist organisation, because it means every time they now go out on a demonstration, the police have to arrest everyone, which I'm sure is a bit of a pain in the neck. Stephen, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
I mean, I'm sort of with these MPs in a way, as much as I don't like what Palestine Action do, as much as I'm not keen on some of the sort of more extreme stuff that they've been doing, like attacking planes and, hitting people over the head and all that. They have sort of made a bit of a rod for their own back, haven't they?
Well, I think it's part, to be honest, Mike, of the rule of law collapse that we're living through. So what would happen in an ordinary society when our world was peaceful and good, is that they'd get prescribed and then everybody would go, ooh, I mustn't support them because they're prescribed. Right. And they'd find simply, if people were genuinely interested in Gaza, they'd find another way to support the people in Gaza. Right. But if I can just postulate this, Mike, they're not actually that interested in the people of Gaza. What they're interested in is defying the government and becoming temporary martyrs and using civil resistance to show that the state is weak. Now, this should come as no great revelation to anybody, because even as a child, you should realise that there are more children in a school than there are teachers. Yeah. So in theory, if all the children rise up, they can overthrow the teachers. But the problem is that leads to a bad society. It's not an improvement for anybody. If you read Lord of the Flies, that's not a good, society to live in. It's tyrannical. It's anarchic. Once you get rule of law collapse, you get mob rule, and once you have mob rule, it's the strongest people who are in charge. And frankly, Mike, a lot of these people who are defying the law don't look terribly strong to me. So they're probably not going to be in charge in this brave new world that they're desperately trying to create. Yeah. I think we should instead go back to obeying the rules and the laws. And if Palestine Action have done enough to be prescribed, then they should be prescribed. If they haven't, then they should be challenged through the legal process. There is a legal process for challenging prescription. And they could simply do that. They don't have to just defy the police all the time and get mass arrested.
Yes, but then what do the police do? Because if we carry on like this, you know, every time they go out and make their demonstration, there's going to be another 800 or 900 arrested every single time. And somebody pointed out to me yesterday, most of those people probably won't end up being charged because the system simply can't handle them.
Well, I would suggest that they should be charged, and I would advise the authorities to enforce the rules and hold the lines. The minute you start giving in to these people, they're just going to push even harder. So, you know, if you get 800 of them arrested and they're not charged, you'll have 1,600 next week.
Yeah.
So, you know, just at the moment, I really would advise authorities to hold the line. We might think about fining them large sums of money, Mike, because that might at least pay for the policing that they're causing to be necessarily done.
Well, I mean, I'd be all for that. I mean, I certainly remember back in the days when sort of Insulate Britain and Just Stop Oil used to sit on the motorways and stuff. As soon as they started getting locked up, it all stopped, didn't it?
To an extent, I mean, the same people will have transitioned over, because what is happening really is that these people are Marxists and they are simply interested in defying the state and ideally causing it to collapse. These are bad and dangerous people. In the Weimar Republic in Germany, they kept getting more and more and more out of hand, and the authorities continually failed to address them and deal with it. I strongly advise our authorities to address these people, deal with them and stop them. This is not a problem that gets better with compromise. And one of the problems is, for the last 30 years, the prevailing political attitude has been that you must compromise everything. And ultimately, compromise itself is an extremist position if all you ever do is compromise. These are not, I strongly advise that these are not people to compromise with, because their numbers will simply grow.
Yeah, very good advice. You may have changed my mind, you know. Very well said. Thank you. Stephen Barrett talking so very much common sense there. And he's actually absolutely right. Just a moment of weakness, I was suddenly going, maybe we should just reverse all this and forget about it. No, he's absolutely right. Let's keep the pressure up and start locking some of these idiots up, because we can't have our streets invaded by these bozos every 5 minutes. It doesn't make any sense. And why should we be paying for it anyway? 0344 499 1000 is the number. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to be speaking to some politicians. Helen Whately's going to be here. Also, we're going to talk to Martin Gower, former NHS Trust Chair, about how useless our NHS actually is. This is Morning Glory, back after the news.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yay!
8722, start your message with the word talk. Who would you send to space and why?
The person I would love to send to space would be Mr.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 4 minutes past 9. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10 o'clock. Alex Phillips here, of course, taking you through till 1. She's in for Julie Hartley-Brewer, who's away this week. Front page of The Sun has got a lot of really good stuff on it. It's got Plane of Thrones, which is rather interesting. It's the Battle of the Princes. It's Harry, of course, who's flown into the country because he wants to do what he calls a mini royal tour. Yesterday, he was out placing flowers at the scene in Windsor, where his grandmother died, and the commemoration of the 3rd anniversary of her death. Hard to imagine that it was 3 years ago. The King, meanwhile, has apparently flown back from Scotland, from Balmoral. There's a possibility that he may meet up with his son, although there's certainly no chance of Harry meeting up with his brother, the Prince of Wales, Prince William. So that's all going on. We've also got a front page story about the cop who secured the release of Madeleine McCann's prime suspect, Christian Bruckner, as early as this week, is an ex-German FBI agent who apparently felt sorry for him. That's what they say. Rebecca Coop, 39 years old, paid a £1,300 court fine, wrecking hopes of charging the rapist over the 2007 disappearance of Madeleine McCann, of course, in Praia da Luz in Portugal. Front page of the Times has got workers took a fortnight off sick last year, believe it or not. That's the average amount of time people can take off sick, probably skewed by the public sector, not so much by the private sector. Meanwhile, we've got the new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, on the main story on the front page, basically saying Indians, Pakistanis and Nigerians will face visa restrictions if their countries refuse or delay efforts to take back illegal migrants who have come to the UK. However, there's not very much influence or very much evidence that she's actually going to do anything different to her predecessor, Yvette Cooper, who of course has now disappeared off to the Foreign Office. Front page of the Daily Telegraph has got 4 in 5 NHS hospitals failing. These are new figures which have been put out by Wes Streeting, the Secretary of State for Health, of course, who's actually instituted some league tables to try and see just how bad things are. And let me tell you, they are pretty bleeding bad. After putting £200 billion of taxpayers' money into the NHS, he says basically it doesn't work. And he's going to say that NHS bosses who do not perform well will have their salaries frozen. Those at higher rank trusts will be handed more money to spend as they see fit. So the better you are at running a hospital, the more money you will get from the state. Problem is, of course, that everybody knows the NHS is not fit for purpose. We'll be finding out exactly why. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer is facing attacks from all sides because all sorts of people, including Bridget Phillipson, have now thrown their hat into the ring to become Deputy Labour leader. Let's have a listen to what Mike has to say.
Morning, Mike. Great show as always. Mike from Lincolnshire here, and I'm putting all my backing behind Keir Starmer. Shall I tell you why? Because what's likely to come behind him when he does finally fall is utterly horrific and shocking for the country. Imagine if we woke up one morning and found that Bridget Phillipson, Louise Haigh, or even that lady who doesn't like white vans, imagine her as being Prime Minister. This could really happen. And here's an outside bet. Angela Rayner. Angela Rayner comes back not only as Deputy PM, but as PM herself. How about that for a horrific Mike?
Well, I tell you what, a lot of people did say that when she was positioning herself before her debacle over the Hove flat, when she was positioning herself as the deputy leader for Keir Starmer, there were certainly people who thought that she was very happy to watch the demise of Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves and the whole economic collapse that was going to go on, because she would then step into the breach and see whether she could do any better. I mean, the trouble is all of them are pretty ghastly. None of them have really got any redeeming qualities. I can't think of one member of this current government that I would want to sit down with and have lunch with, never mind actually have them running anything. I don't know about you. Let's talk to Helen Whately, MP, Shadow Work and Pensions Secretary, of course, because she will no doubt have a view on the latest developments going on with the Labour government, not least the one from Kerry Badenoch on the front page this morning, saying that she says the Tories and the Labour Party should work together to reduce the welfare bill. Helen, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good to talk to you. Let's start with that. Kemi Badenoch's offering the sort of the olive branch of peace, is she not, to Keir Starmer, saying if we work together we can reduce welfare. How is she going to do that?
Exactly that. We have said to Labour that we would work with them to make savings to the welfare bill. The reason why Kemi Badenoch is saying that is because we're in such a serious situation with the country's economy, because the government has been borrowing more and borrowing costs are at a 27-year high, which reflects a lack of confidence of the financial markets in the UK's economy. And part of the problem here is that they don't believe that the country can live within its means, and they don't believe that Keir Starmer can make savings, and that instead, as we've seen all the warnings this summer, Rachel Reeves is just going to put taxes up again in the autumn, putting us into a doom loop of higher taxes and lower economic growth. The economists, the experts are worried about this. Every business leader I speak to or hear from is worried about this. People literally stop me in the street or in the supermarket to tell me how worried they are about the economy. This is a really serious situation. So the government has got to start saving some money, and the place where they can start is a welfare bill, where sickness benefits are forecast to go up to 100 billion by the end of this decade. There is a real opportunity to make savings there. Now, Labour tried before the summer recess, but they couldn't get it past their backbenchers. So we're offering to Keir Starmer, to Rachel Reeves and to the new Secretary of State for Welfare to work with them on the plan for savings and to help get that through Parliament, just because it's so important for the country's economy.
Yeah. And is there a sort of mathematical equation that you can work out that if you all voted for something that they wanted, it would outweigh whatever their backbenchers said?
Well, there's a point at which the numbers can add up for something to get through Parliament. Obviously, it didn't add up for them before recess, where Keir Starmer was trying to do it just with Labour votes, and they ended up doing this U-turn on the floor of the House, where they were originally going to save £5 billion, and actually what they put forward in the end was going to cost more money. It was going to cost either 100 or to 300 million extra, which is clearly something we couldn't vote for, was more spending on welfare. We want to see savings. One of the things here is that Labour doesn't really have a plan for how to make savings from welfare. By contrast, for me as Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, I've been working on the things that they can practically do to bring down that welfare bill. So, for instance, firstly, they could stop the misuse of benefits for things like sickness benefits being claimed for common mental health problems like anxiety and ADHD. Those are not the sort of things that should get sickness benefits. Those are the sort of things that need support for people to be in work. They also can crack down on the abuse of the welfare system, bring back face-to-face assessments, things rather than over the phone, stop the abuse of this Motability-free car scheme. And the third thing is to make sure that those who really need and deserve benefits are the people who get them. But people, for instance, like foreign nationals coming to this country to claim sickness benefits, that's not okay. So making sure that the benefits go to the right people who really need and should be getting them. Those are some things that they could do to get savings.
Yeah, I mean, surely
that's
people...
the sort of thing which we want to sit down and work with them on.
Yeah, I mean, surely people coming to this country should not be getting benefits if they haven't paid anything in.
So exactly that. So we've already said that we don't think people who are not British should be claiming sickness benefits. So those should be things to help British people struggling with ill health. And the reality is we just can't afford the level that our welfare bill has got to. It's got to get under control. And we've seen no sign that Labour MPs would back this. In fact, if anything, they've called for more spending on welfare. We saw them, they're calling for the lifting of this two-child benefits cap, actually reform, talking about lifting that too. All the other parties are saying about spending more, but we know that there really are savings to be made from benefits. Yes, of course, people who really need help should get it, but there's definitely an opportunity to make significant savings and to therefore signal that a government can get public spending under control and the country should start living within its means. That's what we believe in as Conservatives.
I mean, one of the other stories in the paper this morning, Helen, is about the number of sick days that people have been taking off work, and this is somewhat, I'm told, skewed by the public sector in particular. But a sharp rise in sick days has been attributed to an ageing workforce and a rise in long-term health conditions, many of them attributed to its mental health, right? Apparently absences of 4 weeks or more are quite sort of often granted. And staff have taken an average of 2 full working weeks off because of illness over the past 12 months. I mean, that's not sustainable either, is it?
Exactly, it's a real problem for our economy. If people are taking lots of time off work, they're not in productive work, it will hit our productivity as a country, and it's, you know, that's one of the big problems for our economy, is that we're not becoming more productive. It's really hitting economic growth, so people need to be in work, and it does, you know, reflect the problem we've got going on of more time being taken off, as you said, for some of these mental health problems. And some of the problem is the way the sick notes work that you get from a GP. That's another reform I have been working on, where we have to change a process where at the moment you can just like phone up your GP and very easily just be signed off work without getting any access to treatment or anything that's actually going to help you cope with whatever your reason is for contacting the GP in the first place.
Yeah. Absolutely right. Helen, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Helen Whately MP, Shadow Work and Pensions Secretary. I've got a voice note from Steve, I think, have we?
Morning, Mike. This is Stephen Hartz. So sickness has risen to the highest level in 15 years. In other words, sickness has risen to the highest level since Labour were last in office. Have a great day, mate.
I see what you did there. Yeah, isn't that funny that we've suddenly got another Labour government and suddenly everybody's off sick because they can actually get themselves signed off by a doctor. I mean, we speak to doctors regularly on this show who say, oh yeah, I'll quite happily sign somebody off sick for weeks and weeks on end without even seeing them, which is bonkers. We've also got, of course, the other big story this morning related to health, which is all about the NHS. Front page of the Daily Telegraph, 4 out of 5 NHS hospitals is failing. Not just failing because the health service is broken, but failing patients, failing doctors, failing nurses, failing everything. The rankings have just been published by Wes Streeting, say that patients face both a north-south and a rural-urban divide in healthcare. More than half of the worst 20 general hospitals are in the north, while London dominates the top half of the table. Now, why should that be? Let's talk to a man who might know, Martin Gower, former NHS Trust Chair. Martin, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Very good to see you. I haven't spoken to you for a while. What's going on here? Why would there be a north-south divide in terms of quality of care in hospitals, and why are some of the worst hospitals in sort of the rural sectors of this country rather than the urban ones?
I think there's a number of reasons for it, Mike. I mean, if you look at the figures, all the best hospitals, nearly all of them, are specialist hospitals. They're cancer hospitals like the Royal Marsden or the Christie.
Yes.
And a number of those specialist hospitals are in the northern segment of the country and are rated very, very highly. I'm not at all convinced that the problem is necessarily around the chief executives. I think it's perhaps more around the staffing, the people who are willing to go on strike, who possibly it happens more in the north than the south. It also is an issue where hospital doctors are spending a large amount of their time in the private sector.
Right.
And I think that a number of the people in the south and in the southeastern region who have some good as well as some very poor ratings, let's face it, it's very mixed. I think some of them are losing an inordinate amount of their capacity into the private sector. Mike, I'm not convinced about this league table at all. It's interesting to read for us who are observers of the NHS and critics of the NHS. My worry is that it'll result in people losing confidence in local hospitals if they're rated very poorly. And that's not a great thing to happen.
No. But this is the problem, isn't it? That there's an awful lot of pressure now being put on the private sector because people are having to find money, whether they save it up or whether they borrow it or whether they put it on a credit card, because they simply can't wait any longer to be treated. Because there's no question, even since we just started talking about it this morning, you know, I've had, you know, dozens of messages from people talking about the failings of the appointment system, the failings of the medical treatment that they're getting. You know, one guy wrote in and said that he just got the results of a test that was done in 2021. He just got the letter dated August 2025. 4 years later, here's the results of your test. It's madness.
Yeah, and the government claim the hospital waiting lists are going down. There's obviously a drift to the private sector.
Yeah.
That's taking them off the NHS waiting list. And I guess it's awful to say it, but I think quite a lot of people are dying.
They are. Yeah.
So that's a bit of a myth. What I do think is that it demonstrates very clearly the absolutely useless idea of having a sort of monolithic health service. Because what you're seeing is that there are local systems dotted all over the country. Yes, they may be poor in the north and the south, but actually you're seeing that some very, very good systems. For example, a good example, Northumbria Healthcare, where the chief executive has been Sir Jim Mackey, who is currently the interim chief executive of NHS England. He has traditionally been an outstanding chief executive. And his hospital, in terms of general hospitals or general acute hospitals other than specialist ones, is the best in the country by a long chalk. You know, he is a serious player, and if that can be projected through him, all the better. But you know, Mike, if we were to have this conversation in 2030, let's hope we don't have to. But I think, unfortunately, you're going to see the same situation. For as long as hospitals are not allowed to recruit the best people, and they're not allowed to because, unfortunately, the structure, the salary structure that is done through the NHS rather limits hospitals. If you wanted to, for example, have the very best cardiac surgeon available to you in the country, you will be told how much you can pay them, and that may not facilitate you in achieving that.
That's ridiculous, isn't it? Let's have a look at what Keir Starmer said about the NHS being broken a little bit earlier this year.
Everybody watching this who has used the NHS or relatives have know that it's broken. They know that it's broken. That is unforgivable, the state of our NHS. The last government broke the NHS. Our job now, through Lord Darcy, is properly understand how that came about and bring about the reforms, starting with the first steps, the 40,000 extra appointments. But we've got to do the hard yards of reform as well. And as I say, I think it's only a Labour government that can do the reform that our NHS needs, and we'll start on that journey.
Yeah, well, they started on that journey some months ago, and so far they don't seem to have got anywhere, because not only are we now told that 4 out of 5 hospitals are failing, we saw yesterday a story that said that 2 GP surgeries per week in this country are shutting down.
Yeah, and when Keir Starmer says that the last government broke the NHS has been on a long path of decline.
Yeah.
Basically because it's become too expensive, it's become over-obsessed with things that are not to do with patient care. And I guarantee you, Mike, I was for a period working with the CQC, the Care Quality Commission, on the leadership issue.
Yeah.
And I will guarantee you, Mike, that in every hospital where there is poor performance, you will find that the leadership, the culture of those trusts is not good, and that they are overly obsessed with marginal things. They don't concentrate on their core mission. The Prime Minister talks about missions. The core mission is to promptly serve your patients, serve them well, and get the best outcomes you can for their health.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're concentrating on that. I think there's all sorts of other stuff that they're getting involved in. Read any copy, they're all in the public domain. Read any copy of an NHS board meeting minutes and you'll see it all.
Yeah, I know, it's a shambles, absolute shambles, but nothing appears to be improving. Martin, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Martin Gale, former NHS Trust Chair, on the news that, you know, we are still deep in the bad, dark stuff when it comes to the NHS. Nobody seems to know what to do. But we give them £200 billion a year. How can you not make that work? What is wrong with you? Carol in Shoreham says this, Mike, I've heard about a GP in Southampton at a practice there where they've been told to allocate 20% of their appointment time to migrants housed in their local HMOs, and 3 medics have been assaulted by them already. The practice has been ordered not to discuss this with anyone. What an absolute disgrace. We need talk more than ever. Well, any story like that, you know, you can absolutely get in touch with us and let us know what is going on in your neck of the woods. Paul in North Yorkshire says, morning, Mike. Great show challenging the daily lies. Perhaps all MPs should be automatically under oath for the duration of their tenure. Then when they lie, they go to prison for perjury. I wouldn't be against that, to be honest. I mean, it sounds a bit harsh, but there we are. Why not? 0344 499 1000 is the number. Coming up, we're going to be talking to Elliot Keck from the Taxpayers Alliance, because it turns out that Keir Starmer's Chagos surrender may cost taxpayers even more billions of pounds than we first thought. Could be another 12 billion, for heaven's sake. 23 minutes past 9. A very good morning to you, by the way. Morning Glory with me, Mike Graham.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the home of common sense.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 27 minutes past 9. We are nearly half an hour away from the end of the show, and Alex Phillips, of course, will be here to take you through from 10 till 1. Morning Glory podcast available around about 10:15, 10:30. Also, there's a couple of other podcasts on the go at the moment. I did one with Andrew Gold the other day, which you can find on my various social media feeds. Also, I did one with Spiked Online at the weekend. I've been very busy. You think I just do this show? You know, there's lots of other stuff going on, and like a swan, it's all going on underwater. You can't even tell. I'm just so calm about it. Coming up, though, we're going to speak to Elliot Keck, head of campaigns at the Taxpayers Alliance. First, though, how about this from Matt on migrant benefits?
Mike, Matt in Brighton here. Just a quick note on the idiotic Labour MPs saying that the asylum seekers and these irregular migrants aren't allowed to claim benefits. I mean, are they so stupid? I don't know how the system works, but if you're on benefits and you're getting housing benefit, and they're giving you your money for your rent, you have to pay your rent to your landlord from that. So when they're put into a hotel or an HMO and every single bill is paid for, that is a benefit. Yeah. It's no different than being on benefits and giving it to your landlord. And they're getting 54 quid a week. And they're getting clothes, and they're getting 3 meals a week. That is, in and of itself, hugely on benefits. It's these idiots on the left.
Yeah, absolutely right. I've been pointing this out for quite a long time, Matt. But equally, in addition to that, as well as the fact that there are those illegal migrants getting benefits, there are lots of legal migrants who end up on benefits as well, because they'll come into the country, they'll bring a few dependents, they'll bring their kids, they'll bring their mothers, their grandmothers, and suddenly, before you know it, they're in receipt of millions and millions of pounds of benefit money. And I'm afraid anyone who tells you anything different is talking absolute and utter cobblers. Speaking of which, let's talk about Keir Starmer and the Chagos Islands, because he's been talking cobblers about that for quite a long time. Elliot Keck's here, head of campaigns at Taxpayers Alliance. Elliot, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
A load of MPs have written to Donald Trump, amazingly, to say, can you please call off this deal, because it could cost us 47 billion quid.
Yeah, just like Churchill looked across the Atlantic hoping that America would bail us out, I'm afraid we're hoping that America is going to bail us out again. I mean, the real question should be not why are we paying Mauritius £47 billion, why are Mauritius not paying us £47 billion?
Well, quite.
I mean, it's our territory that we're giving to them and not the other way around.
Right. Well, I think I've been likening it to selling a car to somebody. You know, somebody comes around to buy your second-hand car and goes, that's quite a nice car, I quite fancy that. And you say, not only do I want to give you the car, but I'm going to give you like 10,000 quid to take it away and drive off in it. And you kind of go, well, sorry, it's kind of the wrong way round, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you'd be sectioned under the Mental Health Act if you tried to do that.
Seriously. Seriously. But Starmer's been lying about this since day one, right? Have a look at what he said earlier this year about how much it would actually cost.
This cost is part and parcel of using Britain's global reach to keep us safe at home. And it will be less than the cost of running one aircraft carrier for a year. Today's agreement is the only way to maintain the base in the long term.
First of all, that's not true. Second of all, the cost of keeping a Royal Navy Queen Elizabeth-class aircraft carrier for a year is about £96 million, nowhere near the cost of Chagos.
Yeah, the only way that it's the only way to keep it in the long term is if Keir Starmer genuinely thinks that Mauritius could defeat us in a military conflict. And I don't know what Keir Starmer's plans are for the military, but no matter what Keir Starmer does, I think we can confidently take on Mauritius. But the issue here is about what inflation is going to do to this deal. So these payments are linked to inflation, and the government rate of inflation that they're using to estimate this looks like it's going to be far too low, particularly given Rachel Reeves' very inflationary budget.
Yeah, exactly right. And of course, the other problem is that, you know, there are some benefits to taxpayers in this deal, but unfortunately they're taxpayers in Mauritius who have been told that because they're getting so much money from the UK, they don't have to pay any income tax anymore.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. I think it's 4 in 5 people in Mauritius are going to be exempt from income tax, all the while Rachel Reeves is planning to come after your homes, come after your inheritance, and I'm sure she's going to come after your pensions and savings as well in the upcoming budget.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely incredible. By the way, just while I've got you on, can we not talk a little bit about Ed Miliband, who's in the papers today, for not only not installing a heat pump in his house in Doncaster, but also charging us for the electricity and gas supplied to that house as his second home, because we, the taxpayers, have to support him.
Yeah, it is maddening, isn't it? It is the policies of Ed Miliband and his fellow net zero disciples that are driving up energy bills for the United Kingdom for British taxpayers. And of course, many of the MPs, they get their energy bills, at least on their second homes, covered by the taxpayers. So they are to some extent shielded from those enormous costs. It is infuriating.
It really is. I mean, I'd like you to, I don't know if you guys have done this, I'm sure you probably have in the past, but I'd really like to see a rundown of the expenses that some of these cabinet members actually charge us for their second homes and for all the other bits and pieces, because they sit around lecturing us about how we should be doing this, that and the other for net zero, or for, you know, to save the planet, or because it's the right thing to do, and yet they're actually living off us. We actually pay for their entire lives.
Yeah, exactly. They're also hiking up council tax on second homes. You now have a 100% premium on many in many council areas on second homes. Of course, MPs that have second homes, they're not having to pay that premium. So yeah, I mean, it does very much feel like one rule for them and one rule for us at the moment. This line of two-tier kit, I'm afraid, really does apply right across the a lot of the political spectrum at the moment. And it's, you know, I mean, it's troubling times ahead if this continues.
It really is. It's awful. Elliot, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Elliot Keck there from the Taxpayers Alliance, giving us all a rundown of what is awful about this Chagos Islands deal, but also what on earth is going on with Ed Miliband, and why the hell are we paying for his electricity and his gas? I don't understand. Absolutely don't understand. A bit more breaking news. Apparently Emily Thornberry and Bridget Phillipson have both thrown their hats into the ring to be Deputy Labour leader. Well, we sort of knew that Thornberry was thinking about it, milling up the possibility, but Bridget Phillipson has kind of been rolled out as the Trojan horse that that Keir Starmer wants to have in the inside the Labour government as Deputy Labour leader. He's already appointed David Lammy as Deputy Prime Minister. Now Emily Thornberry has made it a two-horse race. One's a Trojan horse, one's just a horse, I guess. I don't know. Morning, Mike, says Jay in Bradford. I've been on PIP and Universal Credit for 6 years now after a spinal injury. The NHS can't make their minds up on what to do. I can't even tell me what's wrong. I saved up some money for a consultation with a private neurosurgeon who said I can get fixed up, but surgery would cost about £50,000. I took the report back to my NHS doctor, so they finally know what's wrong. They said, you got diagnosed privately, go get treatment privately. So I've been waiting for my latest appointment since April last year, and that has been cancelled twice already. I just want to get fixed up and go back to work. NHS neglected is costing everyone money. And this from Margaret in Birmingham says, good NHS story here. Morning, Mike. Last Thursday, I rang the surgery at 8 a.m. I was number 3 in the queue. I requested a home visit, and a few hours later, the doctor arrived. Very pleased. Yay! Crikey, are you living somewhere else? You know, living in Britain, surely. Surely it didn't happen in Birmingham. Yeah, the bad news is somebody stole your car while the doctor was there, presumably. This is talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
And welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 9:37, and of course we are here until 10. Alex Phillips is in for Julie Hartley-Brewer, and this is what can only be described as the home of common sense. Emily Thornberry and Bridget Phillips are now both attempting to become the deputy leader of the Labour Party. I'm sure this is not going to be the end of it. There's going to be plenty more going on, and it's all going to be a bit, I would say, pistols at dawn-like, because they all hate each other. It's going to be quite fun to watch, actually. And poor old Keir Starmer will have to love it or lump it at the end of the day, because he can't actually have any influence over it. Bit like the way he runs the country, really. Let's talk to Philip Kisley, who's a cultural historian, academic and political commentator, because we need to talk this morning, Philip, very good morning to you, about historic reparations, do we not? Very good morning to you.
Hi, Mike. It's great to see you. Yeah, this is a story about the African Union wanting reparations for slavery.
Of course they do.
200 years ago. I think we really need to, the time has come to really push back on this.
Yeah.
The African should be on its knees thanking Great Britain. Because the British Empire stopped Africans gleefully enslaving themselves at great cost, at great personal and economic cost, and the Africans didn't want to stop the slave trade, or, you know, the tribal leaders didn't, like King Gizo of Dahomey, for example. So this is one of those things that, you know, in the past we would have laughed at it and pushed it away, but we've got idiots in number 10 at the moment that they might take this seriously. And I'm thinking, you know, particularly about David Lammy, for example.
Yes.
You know, I don't single him out because he's black. I'm colourblind. I'm thinking about character and talent. I'm singling him out because
he's also an idiot.
He might take this, you know, he might take this seriously.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know that he takes it seriously because both he and King Charles and Keir Starmer went to the Chogham meeting. Do you remember back in sort of was it back end of last year, I think it was, somewhere down in the Indian Ocean, and Starmer went in saying he's not going to talk about reparations, and by the time he'd left, he'd already negotiated a deal to pay them something.
Yeah, I mean, this is just utterly crazy. Yeah. I mean, who's going to pay? How's it going to work? Okay. Right. We've got, you know, we've got descendants of slaves living in this country, brown skin. Are they going to pay? You know, we've got descendants of African slavers living in this country. Yeah. Are they going to pay? What about everybody else, Mike? I'm from a Slavic background myself. You know, my ancestors were enslaved by people with browner skin than their own. Right. Do I expect reparations for that? No, of course I don't.
Well, do you remember they tried this, didn't they, in San Francisco? I think the San Francisco sort of local government decided that they were going to give reparations to... They were going to give $1 million to anyone who could come forward and prove that they had lines and links to slavery, having suffered at the hands of slaves from the Caribbean. And everybody kind of went, well, how are you going to prove that then exactly?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's like everything else. It's the whole identitarian nonsense. It's identity politics. It's this post-colonial stuff that really took hold in the 1970s, gained speed in the 1980s, and went absolutely berserk in the last 10 years. Yeah. And problem is, Mike, our institutions, much of the media, the universities, my God, the government, the civil service, are all captured by this nonsense. Yes. That's what really frightens. I don't care about the African Union. You know, they can claim nonsense till the cows come home. What I care about is the idiots in power here.
Yeah, exactly right. Remember a stupid woman from the BBC, do you remember, who went to the Barbados or somewhere and decided that her family had somehow been slave owners, and she went and gave them £100,000 of her own money. And I was thinking, how condescending is that? You know, it's a bit like going, oh, look, I'm so rich, I'm just going to come and give you some of my money. I can't obviously make up for the terrible things that happened to you, but please just say thank you very much indeed, and I'll be on my way back to the Four Seasons.
Yeah, I mean, it's so condescending, it's ridiculous. It's actually more than that. It's racist. It's actually...
Yeah, it is.
People are so stupid they can't understand the most basic aspects of their own past. You know, Africa was such as it was as a continent. It was a combination of primitive tribal societies, was built on slavery, centuries, millennia before any Europeans set foot on the continent. Okay?
Well, I mean, we can also go all the way back to the Roman Empire if we want, can't we? I mean, many of us were probably enslaved by people who came here from the Roman Empire and sort of, mingled with our women folk, and the Vikings came and did all sorts of terrible raping and pillaging of us. What are we going to do? Get some reparations from Scandinavia?
Well, you can take it further. You can say, well, everybody had it rough in the past. I'm from a working class background. I'm sure you are too. If you go back far,
yeah, definitely.
Our ancestors probably had it really, really bad in the factories, and my Hungarian ancestors had it really, really bad with the Austrians, with the Ottomans, with the Russians, and with the Nazis. Again, who gets all of this stuff? The point is, you can't audit history.
No.
Okay. Because it's too complicated. They know this. It's just vexatious, and we just, as I say, we need to treat it with contempt, but we also really need to push back very, very strongly on it and use the language.
Presumably there's money in it. Presumably there's money in it for somebody, because whenever there's anything like this going on, you just follow the money, don't you? You just go, well, who's actually making money out of this? There'll be somebody making money out of this.
Yeah, and we're talking trillions and trillions here. I would say to the, one cultural historian saying to the African continent, I would say focus on modern day slavery, which is an epidemic in Africa. I would say focus on women's rights. I would say focus on protecting children. Female genital mutilation is an epidemic there. All of that kind of thing. I would focus on trade. I would focus on technology. I would focus on development. All of those things, rather than just having a begging bowl, having a handout, and just wanting something for nothing. Wanting something for a fictional past which is totally and utterly misrepresented.
Yeah. Very well said. Well done indeed. We should get you on more, Philip. Thank you very much indeed. Philip Kisley, cultural historian, academic and political commentator, quite rightly saying, what a load of old tosh. Why are we giving reparations to anyone? We need reparations for, this hopeless government that we've got. I'd like some reparations for what happened on July the 4th of last year when Keir Starmer took over this country and basically ruined it, and has completely continued to ruin it ever since. Absolutely incredible. Tim in Saffron Walden says, this morning, Mike, great show. Hope your voice holds out. Yeah, it's pretty much still hanging in there. On the side of administrators' career choice for those keen on fat salaries with little desire for taking any responsibility whatsoever. Well, one of the biggest problems of the NHS, and it's in the firing line this morning because it turns out 4 out of 5 NHS hospitals are failing, is because most of the people who work in the NHS have got nothing to do with medicine. Most of them are managers. Most of them are administrators. Most of them wouldn't know a pill from a receptacle that you put the pill in, Just ridiculous. Morning, Mike, says Mark in Addleston. I would really like to see some legislation during this Parliament that ensures that the government declare all finances before they leave office or at the end of each term. I don't want another black hole conversation to justify ruining this country. If they don't show all their workings out before an election, they should be legally held to account. Election campaigns should be based on correct and transparent numbers. No excuses. That would be good, actually. I would like to see that. Because the trouble is, all you get, don't you, when you get these sort of, pillar-to-post kind of political movements, is you'll have, what did we have, 14 years of the Tories, and then Labour gets in and goes, well, we've had 14 years of ruination of the economy, we've inherited this terrible situation, and now it's going to take us 4 years to fix it, and by which time we'll have to reinvent the wheel and re-elect us for another 5 years. So at which point everybody's just so fed up, they go, all right then. And so it goes. But now we've got a choice. We've got a difference. We've got a different setup because the old days have gone. And the Uni Party, as it's become known, the Tories and Labour, have collectively ruined this country over the best part of the last 25 years. So maybe it's time for something different. But now there is something different. And even the Daily Mail has acknowledged that. And a lot of people, certainly at the Reform Conference at the weekend, are very sure that they're never voting for either of these two parties again. I'm happy to say. Joanne, on the reshuffle, have a listen.
Morning, Mike. Joanne from Norfolk. So Starmer's plan for change. So here we go. The Justice Department, empty the prisons. Health, cancel and rebook appointments and 4 out of 5 failing hospitals. Transport, huge pay rises in 24 and now they're striking again for more money. Education, breakfast clubs, but that's taxpayer money paying for that, so there's no money for it. Home Office, 50,000 plus illegals coming over the channel, a 1-in, 1-out scheme. The only 1-in, 1-out happening is actually in the cabinet reshuffle, and a bunch of useless failed MPs vying for deputy leader. Change, all right. Great show. Thanks, Mike.
Brilliant. Joanne, Absolutely. Gold star. Well played. Thank you very much indeed. Coming up, we're going to pay a little tribute to James Well. It was his funeral yesterday, and I think it's only right that we should recognise his great talent and his incredible life. That's coming next.
How realistic do you think a ceasefire is this week?
There's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement, an agreement of some kind. We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. What are you looking for here? An end. A real end. Well, all of a sudden he's a big shot because he has the U.S. on his side. I am very disappointed with President Putin. He'll talk so beautifully and then he'll bomb people at night.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to very nearly 9 minutes to 10. And, of course, Alex Phillips will be here taking you through till 1 o'clock. She's in for Julie Hartley-Brewer. Yesterday, some of us from Talk here were able to go down and share in the celebration of James Well's life. It was down in a place called St Nicholas's Church near Maidstone, in a beautiful part of the country, very much the Garden of England. The service was planned by James and his wife Nadine, led by his minister brother Keith, who was fantastic and very, very well understated. There were all kinds of people there. Nigel Farage was there, Lizzie Cundy was there, of course Christopher Biggins was there, Eamon Holmes turned up as well, Jeremy Kyle was down there, Matt Goss actually performed a song inside the church, which was pretty amazing, as did Shirley from Pepsi and Shirley, the backing group for George Michael, and Bobby Davro as well was singing too. It was a fantastic service. It was a beautiful thing that we were all able to join in with, and actually his James's granddaughter Ella was the star of the show as well, who was the first person to get up in the church to speak. And so she actually said this: I wish I could have had more time with him, but having him as my G-dad for the last 20 years has been the most special part of my life, which I will treasure and carry always. Absolutely beautiful, fantastic event, and we were all, as I say, very privileged to be able to do it. Lee John also ended as his body was put into the ground. Amazing Grace, which, as James Whale would have probably said, was hilariously interrupted by his own brother, who was the vicar, as I say, at the graveside, who said, "You're singing all the wrong verses." It was like an episode of one of James's shows, and everybody just laughed. It was great. Let's have a look at some of his best bits, because there's no reason not to. Rest in peace, James Whale.
How you doing?
Good. Now, what do you want?
I don't want anything.
Thank you very much indeed.
Every night from 10 till 2, Whaley's on the line for you. Give me a ring. I'll be there, the mega mouth of radio air.
£300.
Let me just stop you for one moment. This was a section that was called Call Biggins. Did you want to ask a question to Christopher Biggins?
No.
Right. Where's your buzzer? No, I've got the friggin' buzzer in here.
Everybody's good at cooking something, and I'm good at cooking crumble. Would you like some? Well, would you then?
Yes. How do you get such attractive women around you, Stanley? How does this work? I mean, what is there? What is there?
I feel very, very privileged.
And don't it feel good?
Yeah!
Happy birthday to you.
I don't give a stuff whether she likes the show or not.
Most people who watch this show don't like it. That's a fact.
That's what happens.
That's what you get when you commentate it. You show your small nipples.
As far as I know, that kind of animal doesn't have any testicles.
He has.
No.
They're just under the desk.
There they are. I choose not to show them.
Do you remember, Sweet, when we went out to that nightclub in London called Stringfellows? Yeah, I thought you would. My new vagina is so tight it squeaks when I walk.
So what I'm going to do is
that you
really
can't.
Squeaks,
no.
Okay, let's try this now. Is it squeaking?
It is squeaking. I get a sense with him that he is he's a sensitive guy as well.
I remember listening to you, the midnight show. You were fantastic then.
Yeah, but if you heard it now, you'd probably think it was rubbish.
If you get rid of him now,
when you hear shows that you hear in the past, you go, "Why didn't I think that was good?"
Go on, take him up, get him up out the seat, move him out of the door. Lizzie Cundy has now kicked out Vladimir Putin. Call us 0344 499 1000. Did you come here legally?
We actually managed to sneak in. Yeah.
Call the police.
I don't think you realise what you're saying. You're being insulting and rude.
That's the whole point of the restaurant.
Yeah, but it's not very pleasant.
No, well, you don't go there. It's like watching this. Don't go breaking my heart.
I couldn't if I tried.
Oh, honey, I can't hear that
Wait for the beat, man.
You rang up for the text number.
To go live on air, just to ask us for the...
Why the hell would you ring up for the text number?
Why didn't you just ask...
I thought I'd be able to speak to somebody to get it.
Well, we don't have that many people working here on this show. We're bloody busy.
Hold on, you wanted to go live on air to ask the question about that?
You're on air now. What is the question you wanted to ask?
She wants to know the text number. She just said it.
Oh, no,
87222, text the word talk in your message.
But what for? You're on... Just shush, you both. Get their mics on.
87222.
Right. So what is
the word talk at the beginning.
Oh, you must be really wealthy, James, to be able to get a good-looking lady like that when you're such a miserable, horrible sod. Well, she was very nice of them, really, but...
we get that all the time.
Yeah,
Sadly, he's not, but I like him anyway.
James, one thing on my bucket list, I must be cut off by James Whale. Could you please...
And you know...
Oh, I love you.
When my time has come and I'm sadly gone, that people will talk about me and they will go back and show that shit.
Yeah.
And that's what I will be remembered for. That is exactly what I will be remembered.
I think under the circumstances we can let you get away with that. Thank you very much indeed. James Whale, what a man, what a character, what a life, what an incredible force of nature. Mike says, Roger, I don't know if this is actually Roger who sent this in or whether it's Kevin O'Sullivan. I believe Kevin O'Sullivan